You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Adler and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 396, The Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 1, Stranger in a Strange Land. It's hard to believe, but we are finally here. And by finally here, I mean it's been years, decades, since we've awaited some return of Boba Fett. For those of us that have been following the Legends material for all these years, it's always kind of been in the back of our minds, but it's never been canonized. And I guess it's today. It feels like it was yesterday, but it was today. Today's episode premiered, and we finally got some answers to questions that we had prior to The Mandalorian and questions that arise through The Mandalorian, which was kind of great to see. And speaking of great to see, I want to welcome to the show your friend and mine, Mr. Jonesy. Jonesy, welcome to this exciting, momentous occasion that we're finally going to get to break down the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. It feels like it's been a long time in waiting. So it's great to finally be here and be able to talk about it.
Yeah, and I see you're donning your Ear Glue Media shirt on, so quite the cheerleader. I do appreciate you doing that, by the way.
Hey, yeah, we had a great live stream earlier tonight with the Barrel House podcast with our buddy Joe. So he does a whiskey show. So yeah, been flying the flag, man. It's been fun.
Nice, very cool. And yes, I am wearing the onesie as I promised. I will probably die of heat stroke here in about 5 minutes. So if you want to jump in and co-host, let Jonesy know now so that we can just kind of transition and cut you right over without any kind of hesitation there. So I'm wearing something underneath though, so I'm gonna take this off if it gets a little.
Whoa, hey! That's the After Dark show.
No, that's my OnlyFans site. So if you want to,
your fans only.
Fans only. I don't even know what it's called. Sorry, I'm out of my league.
Yeah, and I gotta point a couple things out. So one, for Malice, my buddy Twan bought me some custom things to put my lightsabers in because he was like, "Oh, they're always so sad, just hanging from the wall." So I just wanted to point that out that Twan hooked me up, and then of course we got our Fallen Star book that we're.
Oh, you're getting right into the only news item I've got, which is the Fallen Star. But did he make those lightsaber racks, or is that it's like a gun rack, right? But for lightsabers.
So Twan's cool, man. He takes something and just refashioned it. So he found some bamboo drawers, like you go get at Target, like you put silverware and stuff in, and just put hooks and different things in them to get it to work. Yeah, it's fantastic. It just goes to show you don't have to really go crazy or spend a lot of money in order to get something really cool. And so huge thanks to
I've seen Twan's work on 5 Minute Crafts. It's very impressive.
Hey, Twan and I go way back with building props for dance and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
that's right.
We have made things far worse looking look really good.
Yeah.
And we've not killed any kids that we know of to date.
Okay. So that's good. Good to know. Okay. Well, let's talk about the only news item, because we've got a full show here to talk about with this first episode. But the Fallen Star, can you grab that? Is that too much of a pain?
No.
Bring it over here so we can put it up here. The Fallen Star advanced reader copies finally made it out. Jonesy got his last week. Mine is now showing delivery for the 31st, so this Friday. But I've had a chance. They sent out the audiobook, so I've had a chance to listen to the audiobook, and I've taken all my notes and a couple things. I can't really say anything yet.
Hold this for?
I don't know. That's fine. You're doing great.
I feel like Vanna White.
Yeah, most people listening to the show don't have no idea who Vanna White is at this point. But so we will have a spoiler-free review come out on January 3rd. And then shortly after that, Jonesy and I will break down the book in full detail, like we did both with the Rising Storm and Light of the Jedi, probably about 3 to 4 weeks out. We try to do that to give everybody enough time to kind of get in, read the book, get your own thoughts before you tune in to our full breakdown. So pretty excited about that.
So you do have a copy coming in. We got that cleared up, right?
We do. Yeah. It's so weird how they split out and kind of staggered it, right? In different ways.
It's always funny. I used to always get mine well after Albert, and all of a sudden somehow it has completely swapped and switched. So but as long as you get it, and they're going to take a look at this video, and they're going to see you in that onesie, and they're going to see your commitment to this show and your commitment to Star Wars, and they're going to be like, you know what?
Yeah,
this guy needs an Elzar Man onesie.
Real deal. Oh my goodness, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to look like a dragon. That's what's gonna be. It's like it's gonna be your body. It's like, the tauntaun like thing that people
Oh,
used
where
to
you just
wear.
kind of sit in it? Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd wear it.
Except
I'd totally do it.
yeah, except the bottom part would be a dragon, so it looks like you're riding a dragon.
Yeah. You can get the Ty York one, and we can just kind of ride around together.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Twan,
So-
we need to fashion some spikes on a lightsaber, bro.
Okay. I get it. I get why. All right. Hey, why don't you talk about our Patreon subscribers, because we missed these folks last week, and I am like lashing with apologies that we did so. But Jonesy.
Yeah, and now you're gonna catch me off guard here. I didn't have them up.
Oh, I can do it.
I had my notes up. I didn't have the show notes. I know we have Lauren who's in the chat with us tonight. So thanks so much. She joined our green milk tier. Who else did we have? We had,
Christopher Gassler.
Yeah, Chris Gassler also did green milk, and then we had Daniel do our After Dark tier on Christmas Eve, no less. So
Yeah, Merry
huge
Christmas.
thanks to all
stuff.
those folks they've here in the last week and a half, and we really do appreciate it.
And you can go out if you visit. What is it? What's the website to
Patreon.com/the Cantina Cast.
Good. See, you have these things memorized. I do not.
All right.
Okay.
We've only been doing this for a few years, man. We should
Yeah.
We should probably figure this out.
All right. Well, let's get into the main show. And so what we're going to do is, again, we're going to adopt the good, the bad, and the ugly format, at least for our initial thoughts. Normally, how we do this is we break down we have some initial thoughts, and then we go into and step through the episode and kind of talk about things, speculate on things, and that sort of thing. But we are absolutely stealing Mike Rondo's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly from his Mando Monday show, which is not around right now. So, and it's just kind of a way to kind of organize those initial thoughts. So, Jonesy, I'm going to start with you if you're cool with that, but let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly. Something good. The good is anything that you really enjoy, you felt like was a highlight or stood out. The bad being things that maybe didn't sit well with you or you felt like could have been better in some way. And then the ugly is just anything that you saw when you were watching the episode. So, and I think there were some of these, plenty of those in this episode. But take it away first with the good.
Yeah, I don't know if I had too many uglies. So I think the good was Boba in a Sarlacc pit. I mean, we always wanted to see what this would look like. And sure, if we didn't get it, I mean, which was really interesting and cool. It actually had more questions about that after the fact that I'm hoping we'll get into a little bit. But seeing him in the Sarlacc pit, struggling and being slowly digested, I think it was just cool to finally get that representation. I think the other good thing is we got a lot of backstory for Boba of where he's been for the last several years, or we've got the start of that. Now, you move into kind of the bad side for me is that we spent a lot of time back in a dream or in memories or whatever we want to phrase that, which I was a little bit surprised about. I say it's bad. I guess I was just more surprised we got so much in episode 1 and it wasn't stretched over a bit more like it was in Mandalorian. If you remember early on with Mandalorian, we had the flashbacks from Din Djarin's past of being rescued by the Mandalorians, but it was always very small snippets. Now that was frustrating as all hell sometimes too, right? So it's one of these, borders of, do you want it all at once or do you want a lot of it at once or you just want a little at a time or how do you want that? And that's personal preference, I think. But overall, though, I thought that was the only kind of overarching negative that I had. And then there was the music, like there was a piece of music and this was leaked before the show came out and I just wasn't feeling it. And the Boba Fett theme that we had from the Mandalorian is really, really cool. But we only get a really small part of that in this episode. And we have this other, I don't know how to explain it. It was almost like a more modern Gregorian chant type of thing, but not Gregorian chant, because that would have been really, really cool. But it was, kind of one of these, hey, type of things. And it just didn't work for me. And it felt out of place. So some of the music in general just kind of felt out of place. It's not the same score. It wasn't Ludwig. What was his name?
Thorson?
Yeah. We're always going to butcher.
I didn't even look. Was that really not him? I didn't
No,
get a chance
it was
to
music inspired by him. But it was somebody else. And so it was that was a little bit disappointing. We had some inconsistencies there from what we had with Mandalorian. I thought that it would be a bit more of a seamless transition for music. And that was not something I was concerned about or even really had thought about. But to me, it was very apparent throughout the episode. There were some really good moments that I'm not gonna, poop all over the soundtrack, but there were a couple that just really did feel like they were out of place. So what about you? What's kind of your initial impressions?
Oh boy, I've got a whole list here of things. So you're gonna have to just bear with me for a few minutes. So first off, I would agree. Let me talk about the good. I thought we got a lot of answers, right? There was a lot of things that, again, coming off of Legends and then just the appearance of Book of Boba Fett or Boba Fett showing up in The Mandalorian. It certainly posed a lot of questions. It certainly gave us a lot of content to speculate, on over the course of the last 2 years or year and a half, I guess. And we got a lot of answers. Now, I had some mixed feelings, I guess, on the answers and how we got those. And I'll come back to that here in just a little bit. But it was good that we got some of the answers and we just got those out of the way.
Yeah.
I think Favreau does a really good job with dialogue. Like, I enjoy, even though there wasn't a lot of dialogue in this story, I think it's a credit both to Favreau because the dialogue that we had was witty, it was comical, but not funny. It still kept that tone, right? It still had that dark or crime lord, boss syndicate kind of tone to it. But there were some lighter moments, which I did appreciate. On top of that, I love the fact that he was able to write a script that Rodriguez could pick up and tell without having all that, that dialogue in it, right? There was a lot of non-dialogue in the show and watching the Tusken Raiders react. And I think they did a really good job of kind of conveying what was happening without necessarily having somebody repeat everything. You know what I mean? I think there was only one moment that I caught where, he's like, you want me to dig? Right. Where they had to kind of tell the audience what was happening. We didn't see a lot of that, which is really great. I love that fact.
But I think even that one was important, right? It's the lack of ability to communicate with one another, which I think is setting it up for where that relationship goes on. And we had speculated about this. I think you had really pointed out before was, he's probably been living with them. And this was a really key moment, in journey, a part of that journey for Boba with the Tuskens. And so I thought it was important that we see that gap early on. And by the time we get to the end of the episode, we have a huge leap forward, it looks like.
Yeah. They're Fennec Shand, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. She was awesome.
She was awesome. I mean, it was her
whole,
it was her shoot first, ask questions later mentality, right? I mean, that was going into all this. We kind of knew that she was the assassin. We had seen her already in The Bad Batch, Hunter and the Mandalorian, she coming back in here. And just their dynamic, right? I really enjoyed their dynamic it was kind of like a good cop, bad cop at times, where what's funny is you've got Boba Fett playing the good cop in most of these scenarios, which is interesting.
That's
never thought I would have said that, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. But I thought she did a great job. Tamira Morrison was, I think, really good. Like I don't know. He does really well with this character. I mean, granted, he's been playing the same character for how many years now, right? Or some variation, aka clone of this character for a number of years. And just credit to both of them. I mean, these guys are both over the age of 50, right? And they're out there doing the choreography, which at times was a little slower than I'd expected and all that. But I'm not going to really nag on that. But to credit to them that they're both over 50, both characters of. They're not white characters, right? They're racially diverse characters that we've got in this show, and I think they both did a really good job, and they work really well together when they're on screen. So I just hope we get more of that, even though it seems like both of them are kind of, their personalities are such that they're not the most talkative and outgoing people, but that's fine. We'll get some of that through time. Right. I would agree with you on the music. I thought it was pretty solid all the way through. I did not like the last part of it, the credits piece of it. That part just didn't fit right with me. And I texted you and I said I wasn't sure if it was the lyrics or the voice in the final song, or if it was just the combination there. I get if you pull that out, the music's fine, but then what do you put in there? It feels like it's missing something still, right? Right. So I wouldn't. You'd have to substitute that with something else. I don't think it's going to be a complete.
Well, and the music was ahead of time too. It was in the original sequences on Tatooine. Like when he's getting dragged across the desert and stuff, you have that same theme music going in, but it was a different part of the tune or of the song, if you want. And so it fit a little bit better there because it was more in the background. It wasn't so front and center and obvious that it was so different because you had other sound effects and other things going on. But it was there throughout the episode, but it just wasn't as noticeable or as obvious at those times.
Yep. And then the last thing I have on the good, I told you it was going to be a while. Yeah. The last thing I have on the good was I just liked all the factions that were introduced, and we're going to get into some of these here a little bit later as we kind of break down the episode. But it was interesting to see all of that. We kind of speculated a lot of that there were just. I mean, it's a power vacuum, right? So you've got people coming in and trying to stake their claim in this territory, and with somebody as big as Jabba and a presence as large as Jabba, not only on Tatooine but throughout the galaxy, you're going to have different groups stepping up and rising up. And I think we saw some of those first steps for a lot of these groups, or maybe not first steps, but just their introductions. And I think they're going to play larger parts as we move on through this short-lived series, but hopefully we'll get more of that a little bit later.
Yeah. I did like that we got some continuity though, as well with Mandalorian.
Which part though?
With the Red Key Raiders. So when they're with the child or the Tuscan kid and they're watching the Raiders, plunder the water system and all of that.
Hold that thought, because I've got if you got some I haven't really confirmed who they are, but I did think of them as well, because I think they were Niktos, if I'm not mistaken, the race on those guys, right?
Yeah.
Or were those the Trandoshans?
No, I think those were the Niktos. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll get into that too. I do like that if that is a direct tie, that they were able to pull that in. There were a lot of so let me get into one of the, because it's a nice segue into some of maybe the bad. It's really a soft bad. I'm going to start with my lowest bad, and I think there was some stuff that was kind of, I'm going to call it fan service, and I'm using air quotes for anybody listening to the audio podcast.
Okay.
There were things in there that just were just so in your face, and I get it. This is not. I mean, Favreau did the writing on this again, right? So he's already shown that he does this in the Mandalorian time and time again, right? So like seeing Max Rebo and playing the Cantina song, these are all kind of cool throwbacks.
He's lost a few pounds.
Yeah, he has.
Slimmed down a little bit.
Everybody's lost pounds since Jabba went down, right? But yeah, so that was again minor thing, but some of this stuff did feel like fan service at times, but again, not too bad. Okay, the writing decisions I think were something, and I've already talked about how good the writing was, but the way he broke up the number of flashbacks mixed with the number of present time, or I guess the amount of time that was spent on both, kind of to your point, I felt like it was a little heavy-handed, right, in the flashbacks. Yeah. And I would have preferred, like, if it were me, I think I would have preferred them having done a prologue episode. You know what I mean? Like a shorter, maybe 25 minutes episode where we just get his experience with the Tusken Raiders. Start off with that. Have everybody, make the quick introduction into Boba Fett, get everybody caught up on where he is, right? Because we got to remember, a lot of people watching the show don't have any context of Boba Fett other than the fact that he showed up in The Mandalorian. They've got a lot of questions that need a lot of answers, and their last, the last known whereabouts for him was Return of the Jedi. So I get they've got to fill that gap, and we want them to fill that gap,
right?
But it felt like it was just too heavy on for the balance wasn't there. Where kind of like you said, The Mandalorian, we had the smaller snippets that kind of were paced out throughout the first season there. I just wish it would have been a little bit different. I would have rather have a small prologue and make it 9 episodes or whatever, rather than doing just.
Well, let me ask you a question about that then. So the first dream sequence, I thought was fantastic. Even though it was a bit longer, I thought it was really good. Now, if he doesn't go back to the bacta tank and go directly into another dream, does that change your opinion of some of that to where it wouldn't have felt so heavy in that? Because that's the part I think that rubbed me the wrong way. It wasn't that we got a lot of it early on, because I think that was vital. I think we had to have some of that thing. To your point, you got to see where he's come from, where he's, what has brought, at least at the beginning part of this, how did he get out of the Sarlacc Pit?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, cool. We checked that box, doing great. But I think it's, he gets hurt and then he goes back to like right away, which was a little bit odd to me anyway. But then like immediately goes into a dream state and immediately starts going back to the flashbacks. I think that's the part that I would have been okay without, right? There's something else that could have taken place there, or why was it necessary? I'm still a bit confused why he went straight back into the bacta tank. I mean, yeah, he got shocked to
beat
oblivion.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, granted, we see characters take a lot worse, it seems like, and they don't have bacta at all. So maybe we're just used to the Mandalorian effect, where you could just take all sorts of damage and not even get a scratch. But
pervious, yeah. Well, I mean, so I think it's 2 things. One, I think it's just the fact that they're trying to show him that he is vulnerable. He's not as fit as he used to be, and I mean that physically in the sense that he's been partially digested. And obviously, we see him in the flashbacks, and he's really kind of beaten and digested, right? So some of that,
even several years later, you feel like that's the case.
Yeah, I think that's still the case. I don't know how long it takes for him to heal. Obviously, this back to because we see him in the Mandalorian, or we see him in the present time, he's still scarred, right?
Sure.
So I wonder if that is going to be a thing, that he's just not the same person. He never really truly recovered, and the back to very much like Vader, right? Vader would exhaust himself to the point where he'd have to go back and kind of recharge in a bacta tank. Kind of the same situation here, a similar situation for Boba Fett as well.
Right.
I think that's one part of it. I have a small theory on the bacta tank itself, and when we get to that, we'll talk a little bit about it. It's very minor, but I wonder if there's an added effect to the bacta as well. So I'll just kind of tease that out and come back to that here in a little bit. Here, the other bad before we get to the ugly is I wish they'd shown the escape. Like I enjoyed the fact that we got to see Boba Fett finally get out of the Sarlacc Pit, and I think
Right.
when he was in the Sarlacc Pit, it was awesome. I was so there, but it felt like it just cut so quick to the Night of the Living Dead hand coming out of the ground,
Right.
and suddenly he was out, and I, I we got to see him do the flame, right? He used his flamethrower and presumably burned his way out or whatever else. But I would have liked to see that more. And that what bothers me the most, or I guess is what made me put this as a bad, is of all the directors that you have, somebody that's going to go about and do something like gory like that, you would expect it to be Robert Rodriguez. This is
Right.
where he shines, right? He does really well with this kind of thing. And it almost feels like it was pulled back. And I don't know if that was because it was going to be too gory, right? Maybe it was going to be too over the top. Maybe it was just a timing thing, a budget thing, but it was just a quick shot from really cool interior. Suddenly his hands up, and then he's just kind of laying there. We got to see the Sarlacc Pit wasn't fighting and all that stuff. And I don't know. It just, that kind of fell short for me. So I guess I was expecting more, but again, that's my own headcanon and not necessarily, what Rodriguez
Well,
was trying
can we
to do.
spend a few minutes on that?
Yeah,
Is that all right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think a few things. So as one, I completely agree with you. I would like the Sarlacc was dead. Like if you look in the background, like the tentacles are laying on the
Yeah,
sand. It's not
yeah,
moving.
no movement, right?
So did Boba kill it, or did it die in the wreckage? Because I mean the wreckage was right there, so maybe it swallowed wreckage. And then why was there a stormtrooper in there anyway? But it was just odd how he came out of it without any real theatrics. And I'm exactly right there with you. And actually, this really didn't feel like a Robert Rodriguez directed episode to me. Did it feel like one to you?
I
I mean, there's moments, but
moments, exactly. There are moments. There are certain, again, there are shots that he does that were in this. But
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
with
like
you.
the looking up into the kind of
Looking up, he had that
frame.
the aerial view when the guards were all
Yeah.
those in the street fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But go on. Sorry.
yeah. No, I mean, no, it didn't feel as. I mean, when I compare it to what the episode where Boba was reintroduced, for the tragedy in Mandalorian, it just felt It felt very different. It almost was like it was a different person. And then I also wanted to call out. So Risk Bayless in the chat said CGI was horrid. Now I don't know that I go that far that it was horrid, but I will say this: the sands of Tatooine and some of that were very. You could definitely tell they were using the Halo
Screen.
thing. Yeah,
Yep.
because it was very dull and very
Mhm.
flat.
Yep.
And the environment just didn't seem very dynamic, and it
Correct.
seemed like they were indoors, right? When they're digging in the sand and stuff, it just feels like they're inside, and that they've just got lighting around them. And I did notice that as well. So I thought it was really worth pointing out. While I don't have that severe of a reaction to it, I totally get where he's coming from, and I think it's valid criticism on that front.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll come to that. There's another scene that I think it was kind of where it was really exposed in not in a good way a little bit later.
Okay.
So we'll definitely come back to that. A lot of people in the chat tonight. So thank you guys for being here.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we got lots of people and lots of friendly faces, family and friends.
BDN8183 says, I think the flamethrower killed the Sarlacc from the inside. I mean, I think if you're going to get your way out of a Sarlacc pit, fire from the inside is probably a good way to go, right? I just wish they would have shown that, right? Or
Exactly, that would have
seen
been
the fight.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's all.
with
That's
you.
all I'm saying. So again, that's a minor, what do you call it? Bad for me. So, and then what was the other one I had on here? Oh, the ending. Yeah, we'll get to the ending when we get to the ending. How about that? Okay, but I've got some feedback there. All right, give me your ugly, or did you give me your ugly already? Was there anything that you felt was ugly?
No, I mean, some of the things we're talking about kind of border on that bad to ugly. Like I said, I didn't really have anything that was really terribly bad. Like there were just things that were, I think, more perfect. Oh, so what's the ugly for you?
So the ugly for
you'll
me-
inspire me here.
So the inside of the Sarlacc pit was absolutely horrible. Like,
well, yeah,
it's like being caught in a roast beef sandwich, right? It was just like there was just meat hanging everywhere. You know what I mean? Like tripas or whatever. If you eat that stuff, it was
Right.
just really disgusting. I thought that was pretty gross. Boba Fett's face pre-Bacta is pretty nasty looking. He looked like Clone 99. You remember Clone
Yeah, he
99
did.
that had the
Yeah.
the kind of willowing face there from the Clone Wars series?
Yep.
He looked a lot like him, which would make sense since he's a clone of him. And then the smelling worms that they had, where he like squishes that worm gut stuff right into his mouth to kind of wake him up, like smelling salt type thing. That was pretty disgusting.
Oh, was that what it was? I thought it was like some sort of like just trying to give him fluids or something.
I don't know. Maybe Maybe he just has a thing for bugs and realized that, holy crap, they're putting bug guts in my mouth. I better wake up, kind of thing. I don't know. But yeah, those are my 3 ugly moments. Okay.
Okay, so you were very literal in the ugly part.
Yes. No. And that's what I'm going to be doing here. The ugly stuff.
And fantastically ugly, by the way. That was perfect. The
Yeah.
Sarlacc, actually, the design of the Sarlacc Pit and the way they did the interior, I was really nervous to actually see how this would turn out. And oh yeah, T-Flu, look at that. Terrence is joining us. Good to see you, bud. Yeah, so I was really nervous to see what they would actually do with this if we got the interior of a Sarlacc. And I was very relieved with the way they went about it. Now it was dark, it was difficult to see, it was a lot of goopy and gurgling noises and everything else, but that was absolutely perfect of what they had. And I like the idea that the slow digestion, you start to see little things of it. I think the only part that was a little confusing was how much time was Boba actually in there. I think that would have been interesting to have some sort of an idea. It didn't look like he was in there all that long.
No. We're going to, and yeah, we'll get to that here also, because we are going to, as part of the way we do these shows is we're going to pull up some of the images and kind of step through the episode and kind of give commentary and speculate on things and that sort of stuff. So hang tight. We've still got a lot of show here to go, but we'll get to that here as well. There's Tawan said that he wanted those worms in a tequila, which is probably appropriate given it's Tawan. So, all right, well, let's do this. If without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to step through some of the images that kind of caught our attention.
I'm glad you noticed this. They added Fennec to the pre-roll.
Yeah, I had to put this in here, right? So,
and they added Boba too.
Yeah. And that's the next one actually, really right here too. So that was a nice little touch.
Because they still got Mando. They still got Mando ahead of them too. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad they added that. I'm glad you caught that.
Yeah, it's a good evolution, right? They've continued to add more and more characters to this little intro. I think they've swapped out characters now too, as well.
I believe so. And actually, they've tweaked the font too on the Star Wars.
Oh, you saw that? Yeah, the Star Wars logo. Yeah,
I like it. Yeah,
I didn't take a picture of that, but here we go. Okay, so we open up obviously with Tatooine, Jabba's palace. We've done a number of shows now and talked about the palace itself and kind of set the stage of why. What's important about the palace stage. We talked about the Bomar monks as well. So
I didn't see any monks this time.
I didn't see any either. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah, the palace was eerily quiet, but yeah, no Gotans.
No Gotans. Pretty low.
I don't know. Our world is crumbling around us.
It really is. I don't know what's real anymore. And then the next shot that I had was this shot here, because we, going into this episode, we had speculated about this back to tank and whether this was something that we would see on Tatooine. I had a theory way back when Boba Fett first showed up that he had been rescued by the Tusken Raiders and nurtured back to health by the Tusken Raiders. And I think I got some of that right to some extent. But I did not. I had said at the time, and in fact, I posted this on Twitter, that I didn't think this back to tank was in Jabba's palace because, one, it wouldn't fit his needs. Right. And I was not thinking that maybe it was Bib Fortuna's or maybe it was just something that Boba Fett bought and kind of put in once he took over the palace. And, there's been some time that has passed. But I do want to give a shout out to Maddie over on Twitter as well, because he had a theory that it was Omega who had rescued Boba Fett. And I told him I'd get him a Cantina Cast shirt if it turned out to be true. And it didn't. So you just saved me $22. So thank you, Maddie. But yeah, so anyways, what did you think about this? What do you think about this back to tank being in the palace? Is this something that, what's his face?
Bib?
Not Job. Yeah, Bib Fortuna. Is this something Bib Fortuna had in there? Or do you think this is something that...
I don't think Bib Fortuna would have fit in that either, with the way that he was looking awfully prosperous there.
Prosperous?
We saw him, yeah. No, I think this is something that Boba bought and had installed. It would just make way too much sense. Oh, the jacket's coming off.
Just a little bit here.
All right, he's already playing with the zipper, folks. Yeah,
coming off. Yeah,
and he got me all distracted. No, I think this is something that Boba absolutely had put in place in order to heal up. Now, I'm curious how long he's had it though, because again, he's just taken over Jabba's palace. So is this something that he has had, for a while in another location or relocated, or because it seems like that's a possibility. But again, the evolution of what he looked like in the last few episodes of The Mandalorian compared to what he looks like now seems to be a dramatic improvement. So this seems to be a potentially a new thing. And I'm struggling to find the right word, but a new inclusion into his I don't know, his bag of tricks here to get better with his newfound wealth, I guess, of what he is finding.
Yeah. There's and the quick theory, and since we're already kind of here, the one theory that I had is as I was getting the flashbacks and he's kind of going through it, he makes that comment about the flashbacks are back, and I know I'm skipping.
Yeah, the dreams are back. Yeah,
he says the dreams are back, which already makes me think, okay, so when did he have them? What started them over again, or what started them up again? Is there something there that is going to play into the storyline at some point? But then the more I started thinking about it too, I wonder, we've never really discussed Bacta in great detail. It's always been out there. We've talked about it on a number of shows in the past. But do you think there's any chance that Bacta has a way to not only heal somebody physically, but maybe mentally or emotionally? And that's why, and again, we're going to get to something at the very end about the feedback that this show has gotten already about Boba Fett being a little bit softer and not the cruel criminal or the guy that we all kind of knew or thought we knew. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe there was some, because overexposure to the Bacta is starting to kind of, heal him mentally and make him right and make him not so irrational and not angry all the time. He's got every reason to be angry if you watch the Clone Wars, and getting your dad's head cut off is kind of a big deal as well, I guess. But he's got a lot of emotional baggage. Do you think there's any chance there that the Bacta's doing anything for them?
No.
Okay, we're gonna move on to
right. So I think with the Bacta, I think the way I've always interpreted it is that you have to be in something of a meditative state. And I thought there were, and maybe this isn't canon, maybe this is legends, but I thought that so Jedi would have to go into more of a meditative trance, but I thought others had to basically be put into almost like a bit of a medically induced coma of sorts when they're in it, in order to just get them to calm down and not freak out. Because I guess some people, if you're submerged underwater and you can't see or anything like that, you're probably going to panic a little bit. So I always viewed it that way. That it was more of you had to be in more trance-like meditative state in order to, to really, enjoy the benefits of it, or to be able to tolerate it for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And yeah, Lauren makes a great point. Yeah, it's like a sensory deprivation tank, and it's something that blocks things out. But again, I think you probably end up falling asleep, or you go into this deep, this deep meditation type of thing, and your mind starts to wander a bit. And again, why the dreams come out, because he's just got a lot of time to to sit there and think, I guess. But also, I mean, it's usually with trauma like that, it's something around, like there's something triggering in the change that's going on, right? And so he's probably triggering some of these things that are going around that have that have evolved, and where he has been and where he's at now and what it's taken him to get there. And those types of things come up, and then again, that I think to your point, what are the things that he wants to do differently that didn't work out so well, and how does he apply some of the things that he learned with the Tuscans? And I think when we talk about the whole ruling of with fear versus respect, I think that story with the Tuscans is going to really teach us a lot and tell us why he has adopted that, less so than he's being brain changed or brain healed, or something to that effect, where his actual ways of thinking are being reverted back to some other state. I think it's more of his growth than a repair type of functionality. Yeah.
No, yeah, I would agree. I mean, I like the fact that he's growing as a character, developing as a character, more than there's Bacta that's fixing him or something else that's fixing him
Right.
physically. But just a thought. Okay, so let's get into the first flashback. I thought this was cool. I forget. I think it was Tuan or something.
Yeah, Tuan's pointed this out like 7 times.
Oh yeah, I was like immediately caught it. I mean,
Yeah,
I
Camino. Yeah.
paused it just to see it, but yeah, I mean, we're getting a Camino flashback. Camino flashback with Slave One still docked there, so you can kind of see it there in the top left-hand corner, which is really cool. We had this father-son moment right here where he's lost his dad's head. So yeah, I mean, again, pretty traumatic.
Albie's in the chat, man. You might want to rephrase.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we got this little moment here where dad's looking at him, which is kind of traumatic again. So I mean, he's got good memories, I guess. Maybe that one's a good memory. He's got some really bad memories. And then he's obviously going to have the other ones as well here just in a little bit. Here's where we get into the Sarlacc Pit. Very dark, and that would make sense given he's in the middle of the belly. I mean, literally went into the belly of the monster, right? Pulled right out of the hero's journey. But yeah, I like the fact that he uses flashlight there because he couldn't see. There was that one, I didn't take a picture of it, but that one poor stormtrooper that was laying there.
And he ripped out the oxygen line.
Yeah, right. Yeah. To breathe. I guess there's no oxygen inside of a Sarlacc pit. So we're learning so many things, scientific things about Sarlaccs in this moment. There, and somebody was asking, where did that stormtrooper come from? Who knows, right? I mean, if you think about it, remember the Sarlacc pit was, you'd be digested over the course of thousands of years, right? So this guy could have been there, hundreds of years, tens of years ago. In my opinion, I think he's that guy from episode 4 that holds up the little piece and goes, "Look, sir, droids." I think it's that guy because he's the only one that actually said anything. It's my theory, and I'll probably be proven wrong here, or
But
shortly.
the pit of Carcoon, it seemed to be like a Jabba's favorite torturing ground and place to throw people. So it's interesting
True,
that there would be Imperial, forces that were thrown into the pit
maybe.
because Jabba. I mean, well, although we know Jabba has a very contentious relationship with the Empire, but usually it's one of mutual benefit, mutually beneficial. And so it was a bit interesting that there was a stormtrooper in there. Like, yeah, how did that one get there?
Yeah, see, JR is on the same level I'm at. Probably just some rando trooper who made a wrong step at some point.
I
If
don't think
anybody's just going to
oh,
randomly fall into a pit, it's going to be a stormtrooper.
and that giant beak. No, but yeah, it figures he misses everything else except the monster. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. He learned what a TV dinner feels.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's lucid. I learned what a TV dinner feels like. Here's the Night of the Living Dead moment where his hand comes out. Right, this is obviously a homage to those stories, and
Yeah, and there's the tentacle there in the background.
yeah, I mean, it's just kind of laying there. You know what I mean? It's not moving. So I mean, I suppose presumably at this point it's dead, but you figure there's still daylight here. So I don't know. Maybe a couple days have passed. In my thoughts, it's only been hours because we're going to get to a picture here in just a minute where we see that this hand crawler roll up, and you can still see the smoke emanating from the wreckage. Right, so that tells me it hasn't been very long. I mean, yeah, smoke can burn for a while, but I mean,
Right.
really,
I mean,
it wasn't a whole lot.
I mean, there's a thin coating of sand and everything around it. So I mean, it's potentially very likely that the explosions and the debris were consumed by the by the Sarlacc, and that ended up being the end of it.
Yeah. Here's where we got it. I know it's a little dark to see, so I apologize, but you can kind of see the smoke that's kind of coming off the wreckage here.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if that was smoke or if it was just digital, like pixelation on the image.
Yeah.
But interesting. Yeah, I didn't see it as smoke before. That would be interesting if it was.
Sorry, not to harp on the subject, but you know how much I hate the fact that none of the Imperial bases have guardrails? Now in my head, there is some kind of Imperial ship, skiff, land speeder thing, and somebody standing on there, and they didn't put any kind of handrails or guardrails on this thing, and that stormtrooper probably fell over. And I've said it again, they've got a major OSHA issue on the Death Star and all of the Republic bases Galactic Empire bases. So
But
that's
the huts with the skiffs, they had them, but they were really really low, so they were really easy to trip over them and into a pit.
okay. That's
So
probably
I mean,
better.
you just can't win with these guys.
There's here's where the Jawas come
Let's
in.
get the armor. Yeah,
Yeah, this is a great moment. One, I love the fact that the Jawas are just jerks, right? I mean, they're absolute jerks.
I did
And
not see them being violent though, in that kind of
What the-
way. I mean, them shooting a droid, and shocking a droid makes a lot of sense, but them actually attacking a human seems unlike anything we've seen from the Jawas really before.
Well, yes and no, but you remember, I mean, okay, granted, when Mando was scaling the side of their sandcrawler,
Right, they were in defense mode.
defense, all right, I'll
defending
give them that.
themselves,
But they
yeah.
were pitching whatever they could, rocks, children, whatever they were throwing at him in that
Right.
episode
But they
to
didn't take
get
a
him off the side of the
gun
wall
and
there.
beat the guy in the face with it that was clearly suffering.
Yeah.
Man, jerks.
Yeah. But this corroborates at least Cobb Vanth's story, right? He in The Mandalorian mentions that it was Jawas that he got the armor from. So we know that was true. Not that there was any doubt, I think, for us, because I think they obviously pulled that directly from what is it? Not Empire's End. Which one was that one? Aftermath book, right? The Aftermath novel, or that whole trilogy, they pulled that story right out of there. So, but it was good to kind of see that confirmed.
Why are the Tuscans not in single file in this picture?
Well, I don't know. That whole single file thing is such a weird theory, or like a weird thing. Like, I get you can hide your numbers in a single file, but if you did side by side and walked in a single file, then you just have, that there's at least two, right? But that's another story for another day. The Tusken Raiders do find Mando, so I think not Mando. I gotta quit saying that. Boba Fett.
Boba.
And they're hauling him off here, dragging him through the sands. I mean, literally dragging him through the sands here.
Now
So I
they're
mean,
in
they're
single
not.
file.
They now are at single file. That's very important to you. I get that.
It is.
Okay? We'll come back to the sand. We want to come back to the sand people in a little bit, because I think one of the things that this episode did a really good job of is continuing to expand upon this the thinking that the sand people really aren't savages. They can be savages, or they can be savage in the way they approach certain things, but what we got from the Mandalorian that I'm really excited about, or was excited about, and continue to be excited about, was the fact that they are more than that, right? They're deeper than that, and they're just maybe misunderstood.
Oh, well, I know somebody else that along with Boba and this Rhodian that probably thinks a little bit differently.
Yeah, I
Her
know what you're saying.
Yeah, her name was Shmi,
Yeah. Well,
which actually I was
but do
really
you believe Smee? Is she a trustworthy character? I don't think so, Jonesy.
yeah, I know she was very sketchy. She did not look trustworthy at all. But what I did like is that we did get we do have a bit of a look into what Shmi's capture and presumably torture looked
Yeah,
like, though. So I thought that was important to see and to kind of have that kind of more of a a distant connection, But again, it was something that you could draw on and start to theorize and think a little bit more about what Shmi Skywalker's experience may have been, which I thought was kind of a neat idea.
right. No, I do too. I forgot to mention too, when the Tusken Raiders showed up, we got the vocal part that we hear at the very end in the credits.
Mhm.
And so that makes me, I mean, if they're using that, I mean, if that's I'm going to call it the theme, right? For
I'm
the
kind of
Tusken
thinking it might be
Raiders.
the theme music.
For
Well,
the,
no, I think it's the Boba Fett theme, I think.
okay. So it wasn't necessarily the Tusken Raiders themselves, but you think it's
I'm
just
worried
kind of,
it's the Boba Fett theme,
okay.
which
Well, we'll
is
see.
sad because I think the other theme was much better.
Yeah. Um, let's see here. Here's a great shot. So he eventually gets to this camp, and he's got this kid that's just beating the crap out of him throughout the episode, which I think is really good. I actually do like the fact that they have this little kid. I love the fact that his little stick is shaped like a gaffy stick, right? So presumably he's practicing with that and learning how to use it without actually having the real deal, which is the bantha pick is what we learned that to be as well. But I did like all of these moments with the kid really kind of beating the crap out of him a little bit later. The one thing about kids, though, here's just a quick tidbit. Kids do this to you, right? They beat the crap out of you, and then the minute you finally push back, they're like, oh, and we're going to see that here a little bit later where he's on the ground. Like, yeah, see, this is what you get for jacking with me. But I did like the fact that Boba was like, again, for the killer that he is or was or whatever, he was very, like, he had moments where he could have done much worse to this kid, and he didn't do it. And he realized this was only a kid, right? So again, it's that softer part of him, right? There's the more humanistic piece of or part of Boba Fett that I don't think we've ever gotten before. Am I reading too much into that?
I just
You can
don't.
say yes. I
No,
do a lot.
well, a little bit. I don't think he's ever been one to kill children. I've never really seen that. I think again, Boba's always been a character of one that if you mess with him and you get in his way, you'll feel his wrath. But if you're just kind of in the way or passing by or something like that, he's not necessarily going to spend his time and waste it on you.
Yeah.
And I mean, this kid's not a threat clearly, and by doing something to the kid, he's going to incite the whole camp. He can't quite get away from any of that. And even when they're out like on their own, with digging for the water things, it doesn't make some people are like, why didn't he just get away? Like, well, where's he going to go?
Yeah.
I mean, he's in the middle of a desert. You're not going to get very far, especially with the Tuscans and their ability to move much quicker than him.
Yeah. Those banthas are speedy little guys, aren't they?
They are. We haven't seen a bantha stampede yet.
Which does exist, by the way. That it was again in the Aftermath trilogy. Johnny in the chat has posed the question of what are we calling this kid? So feel free to.
Yeah, we've got Broom Boy. So what are we going to call this guy?
Bantha or Gaffy Boy or Bantha Boy. I don't know.
Stephanie
Bantha Boy.
Anne Marie. Watch your language.
I know. Look at that. Tuskid.
I like
there
that.
You go.
One.
I like that one too.
Kid Raider.
Kid Raider.
T-Rad.
T-Rad. These are all coming in here.
I like how Gary's image just has like a face palm going on with that name of T-Rad.
With the name, yeah, it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the story. This next image I've got up. This is that poor mastiff reptilian thing, which reminds me of Ember because just having read the Fallen Star, I keep thinking it reminds me a lot of Ember in a lot of different ways. But yeah, he ends up punch the dog or whatever, and then uses the teeth to kind of cut through the rope in his attempt to get away. Eventually, he's captured. Well, no, I think I'm jumping ahead here, aren't I?
Yeah.
I can't remember if he's captured first or not, but in this scene, this is where we get that jerk-faced Greedo looking character. What's wrong with Rhodians? They're like every Rhodian in Star Wars is like a jerk.
He's just an honest, law-abiding Rhodian that was captured by Tuscans.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Okay, here's that moment where I was telling you about. Like, this is exactly if you've ever had a child or, some kids picking on you, finally push back and you've had enough. This is exactly
Right.
what it looks like. From your point of view, this is what it looks like. They're all tough and mighty until you finally push back. He gets away and gets caught. Eventually, these guys catch up with him here. This is a very interesting part. Now, this is the part where I said I felt like the CGI was exposed, and to be fair, it's not CGI. They're using that massive video screen in the background that they used
Yeah.
for the Mandalorian that was built for that, which they're going to continue to use. Right? That was, I don't want to get into all that, but there is a reason why this is being used in
Yeah, I
the
mean,
long
it's
history.
been a lifesaver too with all of the pandemic stuff for them to be able to actually do this and keep these shows going.
Yeah.
But
The
yeah, no, I'm with you though. It just looks flat. I mean, and you see it with some of the wide shots of the desert too. And if they got away with this, I think we talked a little bit about this with the 1 year later episode last week with the Ahsoka episode. With the Ahsoka episode with the woods and the mist and the low hanging fog and all of that kind of stuff, it worked pretty well because it was it was just part of the environment, so you could get away with that blurriness of it or that lack of depth because that was the idea. You can't really get away with it here because
mhm.
you have so everything has a lot of depth to it, and everything has a lot of life, especially in a desert with wind.
Yeah.
And so I think those are the things that the subtle things that you end up missing that deprive it of that lifelike aspect of it.
Yeah, this first off, this looked like a boy band here, and I'll need to post that here, but
I
get
thought
people
this
to
was the who are the
Knights of
crew
Ren.
from no the crew from Solo.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, no, I was
what do they
gonna
call
say,
them? Drawing a blank.
yeah, the
Someone else. Someone
Raider.
else. Yeah, the
I can't think of the name
gosh,
either right
we're
now.
terrible at this game.
We are terrible at this game, but yeah, no, it did kind of look like him, right? There's kind of shades of that in there as well. There, and then we get this scene here where, and I think this is obviously speaking to or showing us their ways, right? And like rather than killing him, they're going to give him an opportunity to at least kind of fight for himself and keep himself alive, that kind of thing. So, I mean, it really wasn't a fair fight. I mean, this guy's got a gaffy stick and Boba's got chains on him and he's laying there on the ground. And
I think this is a female actually.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think so too. I think you're
with the
right. I
very
mean,
slender. Yeah.
I think just in the mannerisms too, at least.
Mm. But I
But
like the
yeah,
idea though. The chief like has the number one kind of go in there and say, okay, go ahead and rough them up a little bit. Let's show
yeah,
them what happens when you don't stay in line.
yeah. And the chieftain actually looks kind of disappointed too. The way he kind of turns and walks away at the very end. It's almost like, I don't know. It felt like they were either this was a test or they were giving him an opportunity, or maybe they were just seeing if he's worthy of being kept alive at this point, or I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think the Tuscans like put two and two together that he, got his way out of a Sarlacc pit?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know that.
To where that they would value that this guy has strength, even
Right.
though I mean you could look at him, you're like, okay, well he's a solid guy. He's not
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
not a Rhodian type of
Yeah.
thing.
Whose
Nothing
fingers
against
don't bend.
Rhodians, they're great.
I've got all kinds of problems with Rhodians. And then here's right before we come out of the flashbacks. And they did this kind of noise, and I mean by like visual noise, you can kind of see it here. Almost looks like he's in the Matrix here.
Yeah.
But they did this kind of this noise thing as the kind of way to show him how to as he was transitioning in and out of the dreams, which I don't know if we needed that, but
Yeah, I
it's
didn't
fine. It
understand
didn't bother
it
me at
at
all.
all. Yeah. It was just distracting.
Is the chief wearing an "I destroyed the Death Star" medal? Is he?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, it's this medal right here. I don't know. I have to check that out. I have to see. I don't know. I like that. If not, or even if he is, yeah, we're going to call it that. So good job, Gary. Okay, so we come out of this and we hear that
Hey,
"Wake up,
boss.
boss."
Yeah, wake up, boss.
Yeah, and
So
she's
this is
very
where
respectful. She turned her eyes so that
yeah,
he could get out of the back to tank.
right. But this is where I love Fennec Shan, and this is where like I fell in love with this character. Actually, I think I fell in love with how they wrote the character, and of course, Ming Na Wen is just knocking it out of the park with how
Yeah.
she brings the actor to life. But this character, when you look at how this character has been written and performed from Bad Batch to Mandalorian and now into Book of Boba, it is probably the one of the most consistent characters that we've seen in a while across multiple mediums here or
Hmm.
across multiple shows.
Yep.
Like she is, while she has a heart in some ways, I guess she has a level of compassion, but she's always very much the job first. and she's very to the point and very astute about things as well. And she just very matter of fact with how she presents it as well.
Okay.
And it's just something I just really appreciated with the character. We didn't get some huge variation. You were talking about, has Boba changed, or how different is Boba Fett now? And we saw this a bit with Din Djarin, right? That kind of journey and that change. Well, no, Fennec Shand, as Boba introduces later on, Master Assassin Fennec Shand. And she is still very much Master Assassin,
Mhm.
Fennec Shand. She doesn't have any, you know, love lost for anybody, and she doesn't have any, she's not pining for anybody, or any way of life or anything. She's in it for the money, fortune and glory, kid.
Yeah. Well,
So
and at
I
this point, I
really
think
like
part
the
of
way
it
that.
is no, I agree. Very consistent. And at this point in her career, life, whatever, she's, obviously loyal to Boba Fett for having saved her life and, putting in those mechanical parts and all that, which I wonder if we're going to get that flashback, if we're going to get to see that as one of the dreams or memories.
That would be kind of cool.
Hmm.
But so one of the things I want to ask you though, so we were talking about, the dreams are back. Does Fennec even care? And the way that Boba says it, are they friends? Because they don't really, I mean, they kind of seem like they have moments where they're maybe kind of friends, but that seems like a stretch. Do you think she cares and that they're like friends on any level, or is this purely a business relationship?
No, I think they do, because they have moments where they're being like coy with each other, and there's several looks. I
Yeah.
want to take screenshots of all of them. She makes several attempts when she looks over to him, and she kind of smiles at him. He kind of smiles back at one point, which was odd to see, Boba Fett smiling like that. But I think they do have a relationship. Now, I think it's purely plutonic at this point. Maybe it changes into something
Well,
later
and I'm
on.
not saying anything relationship
Yeah,
wise,
yeah,
because
no, I get it.
I
I
don't
get
think we
it.
want to see that anyway.
I don't care.
And you always want to see the things.
Well,
We're gonna have to come up. We have to come up with a new nickname for him. I'm just tired of coming up with nicknames. It's too tough.
yeah. No, I don't. Well, and I get what you're saying. I'm not saying that's the case. In fact, it's clearly not the case here
Oh, okay.
yet. But I was, no, I'm saying what I was saying is,
That's not what that means, Albert.
I know it doesn't. But I get what you're saying though. It is she's she's almost come across as a hired person, a servant of some sort, right? But at the same time, she seems like she cares about him, right? Right? She's asking him. She seems concerned when he says the dreams are back. She's got a look of concern. I guess she cares about him in some
Yeah,
way. So
I didn't take it as a look of concern. It almost looked like a look of dismissal. Like, okay, well, it's time to suit up, cowboy. We have visitors.
I don't like that at all.
I'll have to go read.
Because then they don't get together. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what the people think here. Let's see. I think they respect each other genuinely. Just the vibe I got. So yeah, definitely respect there.
Yeah.
That was. Let's see. Dark Tower Collectible says she cares, but I'm willing to bet as long as it doesn't affect the business relationship.
Yeah,
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah. Was that it we had? Yeah. Feel free to chime in if you got other thoughts on whether or not these guys are a thing yet. Okay.
Almost. Maybe later.
Yeah, we'll see. Oh, and by the way, I didn't get a picture of it, but we got an armor montage, huh?
We did.
We got an armor montage.
Very
It's very
short.
short. No, music wasn't 80s, but I'm totally fine with that. But I thought it was great.
This was actually kind of cool. It was cool, like seeing the gauntlets and stuff, strap and
Yeah.
clamp to his forearms and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool to see.
Yeah, it was very similar to what Vader went through when his armor would get put on. I know you could chalk this up to Iron Man, right? Getting his our suit of armor put on, and
viewed it more like Iron Man. Yeah.
Okay, we're a Star Wars podcast, Jonesy, but if you want to say Iron Man over Vader, that's fine.
We never really saw Vader get all put together
was
like
in,
that, and
it
he's
was in
got
Legends.
gloves. I mean, it'd be like, snapping the glove or something.
Okay, so let's get to the tribute scene because there's some cool stuff that happens here.
Yeah.
I didn't get a picture of the walrus character.
Aqualish.
Yeah, the Aqualish, which are disgusting creatures to begin with.
They're very, their hair is very, ratty and it's
ratty.
very,
They look like spiders, like when zoomed in, 1,000 magnification level.
they look
type
like
stuff.
Ron Howard's brother in Solo.
Oh yeah,
What was his name?
or Ron Howard's brother in anything.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
or I can't remember what his name was, but yeah.
I did like this line here, and this is where I felt like the dialogue again with what little dialogue we got. I enjoyed the "Did you catch any of that?" Something about friendship, that kind of thing. It was just kind of like I don't know what that dude said. I did. He mentions in there that they need to get a protocol droid, which I think they're kind of foreshadowing that they're going to have one of the have a droid. And my theory, what I would love to see, and Tawan is with me on this one, right?
Oh boy,
he's my Rebels boy.
This is going to be horrible.
But I want to hear AP5 come back. AP5 needs to be the protocol droid that comes back for this episode. And if you've not seen Rebels and seen AP5, you either love him or you hate him. But I absolutely love him. So
what
but
do you
in all
think
seriousness, are we gonna what are we gonna get for a protocol droid? Do you care? Or do you know?
No, I really do not care at all. But it's a protocol droid. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
So what do you think is the term daimyo? Is that a new term for us? I don't recall hearing anywhere, but what do you think of that? The title of a daimyo?
Yeah, I don't remember if that's is that an actual term?
It is in Star Wars. It was capitalized.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah. DAIMYO. Yeah.
I thought it was a real term though in real life. Meaning
It
like
probably
overlord, like an overlord or a crime lord of some sort. A warlord, I think is the term I was trying to think of. But yeah, it does sound like there are other warlords out there, right?
In feudal Japan, one of the great lords who were vassals of the shogun.
There you go. So yeah, I think they exist out there. I think there's plenty of them that have probably come, have risen here. What this is in present day, we're at 5 years past the events of Return of the Jedi.
Right.
So yeah, I would expect in 5 years' time, a number of groups have stepped up and warlords have assumed power or came into power in some way. So I think that's all going to play out. I think we kind of talked about that, right? There's going to be a power struggle here, and he's got some pretty big shoes to fill. So
yeah. I love that the Trandoshans brought a Wookiee pelt, though.
I know, isn't that just the most horrible thing?
It's so perfect though, because I hate the Wookiees.
Yeah,
and it's something that Boba's always had Wookiee braids and stuff on his outfit, although they're missing these days. So
yeah,
maybe they were digested first.
Oh, that's right. They didn't survive the flames that he was excruciating. All right. There's let's see. Oh, we get the mayor showing up, right? This major domo that shows up, or the mayor was supposed to show up. However, he did not.
Right.
And he sends his major domo instead, which is this dude here. And I forget this actor's name. I think he's an improv actor. But I thought he did a really good job. Like super creepy sales guy, slimy, can't trust him, which, we had that line in there from Fennec Shan saying, I keep my eye on everyone. Right. But what do you think about his character? I think they're setting up a lot of things here.
Yeah, I mean, definitely we're going to have a rub with the local authority in Mos Espa, it sounds like, or a power struggle. And I imagine since Bib Fortuna, or since Jabba's departure, I imagine it sounds like the mayor probably has taken over some of that, because Bib Fortuna never really strikes me as the type of character that was really strong to be able. And that's why some of the comments we got a little bit later on in the episode here, where Jabba had many vassals, Boba was saying, right? And they need to try to keep as many of them intact as they could. But I think, and this is going to be one of those that's a challenge, because it sounds like the mayor has had his own influence, and they of course they foreshadowed the battle, a little bit later on, where he's like, you should expect that, you're going to receive another emissary, basically, right? And sure enough, he's attacked in the square. Him and Fennec are attacked in the square, and presumably that's coming from the mayor.
Yeah, I took that. Yeah, I took that as well. Like, either when he says that you're going to have another visit, I thought there would be the worst case is they come attack him at the temple, which I thought would be really cool. Like seeing Jabba's defenses, or what defenses are in the temple itself.
You never attack a fortress like that, but that would have been foolish and hilarious and awesome to see.
Well, Luke did it. But
from the inside.
It's very true. But then when I saw them get attacked in the street, I'm like, okay, well, that's got to be the visit that was forthcoming, that they were foreshadowing there. But yeah, I think this kind of plays into that theory that we had about the Ithorian that's sitting on that throne. I do truly think that is the mayor now of that this guy was representing here. So more to come there a little bit later. And then we got the two orcs, which I don't know if I got. Yeah, I got a picture.
They're not
here.
Orcs, man. Wrong franchise.
Not orcs. Yeah, wrong franchise. Not orcs.
Gomorians.
No, I'm kidding. The Gomorian Guards, or as I like to call them, Bebop and Rocksteady, because I couldn't. Did they give these guys names? There's going to be another. There's another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle reference here a little bit later, so just spoiler alert. They didn't give them names, did they? Do you think we're going to get their names, or do you care? I know you don't care.
Well, no, they're just hired guns, so they're nameless. So as long as they're loyal, but they're expendable. So no, they don't get names. Unless we're going to make a toy out of them. Then we'll give him a name.
Then they'll get names right. Fennec Shan thinks this is a bad idea to bring them on.
Yeah, that was an interesting comment. What'd you make of that?
I don't know. So like later on in the episode, I think they proved that it was a good idea, right? They're the ones that actually pick up Boba Fett and bring him and slam him back into the back of the tank. So from that perspective, I think that was a good idea. And I think maybe that's all we get from that. But at the same time, I wonder if one, if not both of them, turn on him at some point, right? I don't know. It's hard to say at this point. Shrek 1 and 2 is another good name. I like that. Stephanie likes orcs. I think it's fine. You can call them orcs. They look like orcs. And then you got Markion Rowe there in the back. You see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
The eye. I'm going to Photoshop Markion Rowe's head on that.
Or was it Captain Ithaca or Captain Akar, whatever his name is? The other guy with the red helmet and the single eye.
Oh, yeah, from
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens, yep. I didn't know his name. So kudos to you.
Captain Atharo? Yeah, whatever.
All right.
Mos Espa, we did, I don't know, did we get this right? Did you call it
Sure,
Mos Espa?
we said like 8 different towns, so we got to of course we got it right.
Hell yeah. We got this.
Mos Espa. No,
Mos Espa looks huge, man. I mean, there's a lot to this place. It's a really cool looking design. I like its inset, like into this canyon.
Yep. I took a picture of this, and you can't see because we're covering it up. That looks like Captain Zuvio, or what is it? Constable Zuvio.
Oh, Constable Zuvio, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't Boba's helmet look a little ragged there too? It's a little strange.
Maybe. But that definitely looks like Zuvio's helmet.
Yeah.
Which Embo is another character that's kind of that same, I don't know, clan or whatever. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely more Zuvio than Embo. Yeah.
All right. Anybody if you got that reference, then you're right with us on this show.
Right. We're taking applications.
We're taking applications. So they're making their way through the streets here. They're kind of talking about, hey, I'm not being carried. I just want to be carried like Jabba was at one point. And this all kind of comes back a little bit later because he gets basically humiliated in the streets. So it was the complete opposite for, I think, for the effect here that he was going for. But I do want to point out the droid livestock, because when I saw this, I thought, what in the world are they doing with droid? Like, where do you milk these things? And what do you do with these droids? I don't understand that. Like, I get they were probably trying to use, what is that robotics company that makes these things?
Honda?
No, well, they are one of them. Yes. There's an American robotics, or I can't remember what they're called, but they have these videos out there where they're like punishing these droids, and
yeah.
It looks like a lot of those models. I follow them loosely, but it looks like all these models and they just threw ears on them or something. But I thought, why is she hurting these? Like, I don't know. It was maybe they got a kickback from that company to show them off or something. But
right. So do you like the idea though of Boba, like, doesn't want to be carried around in a litter and be paraded around the streets like a hut? I mean, do you think that's a good move overall? I mean, it's really, I think it's at least setting the tone that he wants to set.
Yes, that's exactly right. I think he's setting the tone and make it clear that this is a new breed of boss in town, or a new breed of protection, or
right. But Fennec has a point though, right? Because it does show power, and it shows influence, and it shows that you subjugate those around you, and that you are above other people, even if it's just a visual, right? And I think this is where, like, I think that's some of the challenges and the struggle that she's having with Boba at this point in time, is that she's, she knows what he's capable of, but she doesn't want people to think that he's soft.
Yeah.
And that he could be taken advantage of, and that he's going to be giving people all this leeway, because it's really hard to take that back. Or when you do, you have to do it with such an iron fist in the underworld, at the very least, that then all the goodwill you had maybe in the positive spaces starts to erode. So this is a case where, Fennec, based on what she has seen, and it doesn't sound like she's really been part of the underworld's, upper echelon of things. She's always been a bit of the loner in comparison, but
she understands how it works. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I'm really curious to see how well this works, because we know that he's going to have challenges later on, based on what we've seen in some of the trailers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. It's a very interesting dynamic too, right? It's a juxtaposition between their views on how to rule. You've got somebody like Fennec Shan, who's been closer to this probably more recently anyways. Maybe the dynamics have changed over the last 5 years, but she definitely is closer to a lot of this stuff. And so in her mind, hey, you need to rule with fear. You need to do the things that Jabba did. And there's a there's a way about there's a way you go about all of this. And Boba is coming in thinking, okay, I don't care how they used to do things. I want to do things my way. I want to do it differently. And so there is an interesting dynamic there between, at what point does he start to give in or take advice from her, right? Not to jump ahead, but a little bit later, where there's that comment about the fear, right? Sometimes she says fear is
Sure bet.
a sure bet, right? And I just wonder if at some point is Boba going to kind of teeter on that line, or does he get pushed too far over the edge where maybe things aren't going the way he's still trying to stick to his guns and rule the way he wants to with respect, but at the end of the day, he finally has to give in because there was nothing left to do but rule with fear, or fear is the only option in that situation,
Right. And I think it's one of those things like you start to adopt what Jabba did. So Boba's always been hands-on, right? He's always taken the job. He's been in the business forever, right? I mean, he's seen all there is. But now it's a little bit different. Now he has someone else who can get their hands dirty instead of him directly, which always seems like a pretty crappy move, but it makes a lot of sense when you talk about, your influence and about when someone wants to accuse you or say that you're like, oh no, I'm not. You were talking about good cop, bad cop kind of thing late
Hmm.
earlier, and very much that type of thing. Fennec will take out, but yeah, Fennec kind of, she goes out on a limb every once in a while, and yeah, we're going to take care of some of that. Not that I see him as that kind of character, but you could just see that dynamic and why it's important to have the person who gets their hands dirty, and then you have the other one who stays clean, but they have the power and the influence for those other things to happen or not to happen. And
Yeah,
I think that's the part that make it. She wants to make sure is very clear that he needs to make sure that power that he has is clear and asserted early on, especially if there's this power vacuum or this chaos kind of going that Bib Fortuna probably helped propagate in some level because
exactly.
he's a pushover and a bit of a
Right.
kind of a loser. So
Right.
uh,
Yeah, I think he's given ground to some of these other groups, and they're trying to get that back before it spins out of control, or these other
right.
groups get too big where they're mountains to climb at that point.
Well, especially with the mayor's major domo, I mean, he basically just excused him, and and Fennec was the one who had to basically say, "I mean, well, he's going to give you the gift," like when he wanted tribute instead, right? To
Yeah.
turn the tables.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over that. I should have
Yeah, I
brought
mean, it
that
was a
up.
really
Yeah.
important part. It was like he's not giving tribute; he's actually there to collect, and that again, that shows you the power shift that's trying to take place at this point. But I think it was also important that she was the one that came up with. I mean, he's giving you the gift of leaving unmolested, which I just thought was
Right. Yeah.
a great way of
Great
putting
line.
it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, apologies."
Yeah. Yeah.
And what was it, like, gratitude or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is going to, we talked about who was going to be the antagonist to Boba Fett in the series. And then right now, I would say all bets point to the mayor, right? And the
Yeah,
amount of power that he has and still wants.
especially
He,
inside of Mos Espa. Yeah.
yeah. Right. Right. Which is a really large town compared to, I think, what
Yeah.
we had originally thought in Legends and that sort of thing. So,
Well, definitely what we saw of Mos Eisley, right?
yep.
I mean, Mos Pelgo's not exactly doing great these days.
Couple quick questions. How does Jabba get around the desert? They would float on these little skiffs.
Yeah.
Literally float on these skiffs. They didn't really crawl around. I think when he was, in episode 4, when they brought Jabba back in with CGI, they kind of showed him, sliming around. But generally speaking, they moved around on skiffs because they were just so huge.
Right.
And yeah, Rhodians are. I don't know if they're water creatures or not, but I don't understand the lore. I don't think Rhodians lived here natively. They just visited here because Tatooine was a port for anybody to come. That whole planet was really just kind of come and go as you please, and so far out from
It's a,
the core worlds.
yeah. And it was, again, Tatooine became a bit of a kind of an off the radar
Hub.
trade. Yeah. Like kind of
Yeah.
a trade, uh, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? But yeah, kind of a trade route, and maybe not
Mhm.
necessarily a hub, but definitely a trade route, but then became a crime hub of sorts.
Yeah, because of lack of oversight and
Sure.
law. Wasn't Robert Rodriguez brought in to direct Mandalorian episode? Yes, and he is getting lots of notes. I mean, he directed this episode, but he did not write it. It was written by Jon Favreau, and he literally has Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni writing these scripts and telling him, "Nope, you can do that. You can't do that. This is why this works," and that sort of thing. So, not to say that Rodriguez isn't a fan of Star Wars to begin with. I know he is, but I mean, you got those
Most
two
directors
guys.
don't. Yeah, most directors don't necessarily write anyway.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think
Although,
the point that Alejandro was trying to make is that maybe he didn't have as much influence overall in the Mandalorian episode that he directed.
right.
Maybe it's more the fight scene side of it. I don't know. That's an interesting concept. I don't remember that being the case, but that's interesting.
There's okay, we get into the cantina here
Yeah.
on Mos Espa, and yeah, I mean, I've got some pictures, obviously, but Max Rebo, and I don't know, like, I mean, you've seen one Bith, you've seen them all, right? But is this Friggin' Dan, or is it somebody else? You think it's just some other?
Yeah, they've upgraded their instruments. That's for sure.
Yeah, Rebo's got lights on his now,
Yeah, and it's
like
playing,
LED lights at
yeah,
that.
it's looks like the Eddie Van Halen guitar from the 5150 tour.
It does.
Yeah. It sounded more like didn't it sound like more like a sitar or something like that though? I'm trying to remember
Yeah,
what the
it was
sound
more of
was.
an acoustic tune, but it was for anybody that was wondering. I'm sorry, I'm making the screen go crazy here. It was one of the songs from the Cantina that was played. That was just
Right.
kind of like a cover song of that, or cover version of it, which I thought was cool. But I think that was confirmed to be Max Rebo. I don't know if that was confirmed to be Friggin' Dan from Friggin' Dan and the Modes.
And the
The
nodes.
Nodes?
Yeah, the
Nodes, that's
nodes.
what it was.
Yeah. If you don't know what we're talking about, you have to go to From a Certain Point of View, the A New Hope edition.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where all that's
exactly.
coming from, that book, those short stories. But here we have the lovely Madame Garza Fwip.
I didn't get her name, but I'm glad you wrote it down because I forgot to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we talked about this character quite a
Not
bit.
Jessica Biel.
It's not Jessica Biel, okay? So that's an inside joke. If you've been watching or listening to the shows, you know what we're talking about. Huge confusion going on there. But yeah, this big name character, big name actress, I guess, or fairly known actress. So I suspect we're going to see a lot of her in this series, and she definitely seems to be on Boba's side. Boba seems to like this establishment. He likes, man, things are good. There's people gambling. There's music. It's real lively. He's like inherited a pretty good spot here to take care of. And he's got to keep these guys in
Wants to make sure it
defense.
continues to thrive under his watchful eye.
Mm-hmm.
And
She got kind of touchy-feely there with him.
Yeah, again, and so she's not in Team Boba, right? She's not in the Boba camp. She's in whoever's going to stay out of her way and let her make money and do what she needs to do to make a living, right? So I think that's the angle. She's a businesswoman first.
Yeah.
So whatever it's going to take for things to go smoothly, hey, we'll refresh your helmets and can we shine them up by filling it with coin? Basically, which is I thought that was actually a pretty nice little angle.
Yeah.
Again, she knows the game, so she'll take care of it.
Yeah, there's where was I? There was something else. Oh, I put in here that was a Cuban Cabana vibe going on with the music.
Right, there was.
But yeah, the helmet's coming back with coins. I was like, oh, that's why there was coins in the helmet during the trailer.
Right.
We like racked our brains on how that was even, like, what that even meant.
Yeah, makes sense.
Which
Going around, pass the hat around.
And how sad for the Gomorian guards is it that she says, do you want us to take your Gomorians in the back and hose them down and feed them?
Yeah, but again,
I want somebody to hose me down and feed me. I mean, that'd be great, right? Isn't that?
You're married. That's what she's for.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, but it just shows you like second class citizens and like how they view one another. And
the Gomorian, poor guys.
When you see a porcine or porcine, whatever they're called. Yeah.
The what?
Porcine, isn't porcine like pork? I don't know. They're pig-like.
Pig-like? Okay. I don't know. Sure. I'll take your word for it. I didn't know what porcine was.
English,
but it is
easy. So
it's a classy joint, right? They want to hose them down first, right? So
yeah, right.
And then we get that whole exchange about him wanting to walk on his own 2 feet. I thought that was a good line there. I liked her line about yours looks shinier than mine. But this is the look I was telling you about, where they're kind of smirking at each other and smiling.
Well, yeah, they're having a good. Yeah, like, hey, this isn't so bad.
Yeah, I mean,
just
they're having a good time
and collect money. Yeah,
yeah, pretty good time here.
Yeah, I don't know what Jabba was bitching about all these years. This is easy.
I did like they called him Lord Fett too. There's just something about that ring to it, right? Lord Fett, which I thought was kind of cool.
And they adopt it really quickly. I mean, the people that know the game because they step right in really quick, and they just go right. Of course, they've been through this before. They know the game.
There's a small comment when they come out. This is where they make the exchange right before this scene here, where they're talking about the ruling with fear. It sometimes is a better option. There's also, he makes a comment about the Empire and saying that he wants to keep the Empire of Jabba still intact.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of speaks to what we were talking about earlier about Bib Fortuna letting things kind of slip, and they're starting to lose their grasp or maybe lose the amount of control that Jabba had. So That's all going to play into that power struggle that we're going to see here. Okay, so we get this scene here, right, where they get surrounded by these guys. I'm calling them the Foot Clan because that's what they look like. That's the other Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle reference I said was going to be coming here. They look like Foot Clan soldiers to me.
Yeah, they kind of do. You're right.
So, yeah, there you go. But they've got these shields. These look like portable ray shields to me.
They really do, yeah.
I mean, they seem impenetrable. They hurt, right? We had that one shot where that one guy falls on it. One of the gets thrown on. I think Fennec tosses him into one. And he sits there and gets kind of electrocuted or whatever. But I thought, what did you think about this fight scene itself? Just the choreography and overall?
Honestly, little lackluster. Not quite the fight scene that I think we were expecting from Robert Rodriguez, to be honest with you. I thought it was okay though. I like the after, like the more of the chase scene with Fennec. I thought that was more enjoyable. I mean, the odds were kind of stacked against him. It was a lot of getting shocked with batons at different angles and above and around, and it just felt a little flat for me.
Yeah. Do you think the intent was to capture or to kill here?
That's a really good question. I think it was to kill. Well, I don't know. Why would you use stun batons then to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. What do you think?
I don't know. I ask the questions here. No, I think it was. I think they were trying to stun. I think there's probably a lot that could they could do with capturing somebody like him. Certainly, killing him would be a way to do it too. But
hey, do you notice what's over Boba's hand in this image that you've got on the screen?
Over his hand?
Yeah, the shield, the armor plate over his hand. It's the same thing that. Yeah, that's the same thing that that Din Djarin's got. That looks like the shore trooper.
Yeah, it looks like a shore trooper part. Yeah, the cover there.
Anyway, it's just kind of gunmetal colored, but I never noticed that before. We speculated about Din way back when.
Well, and not to get, I mean, if you really want to get on a tangent, since we're only an hour and 16 minutes into this show, I think we've talked about the origins of the Mandalorian, the Stormtrooper helmets, right?
Yeah.
Coming back from the Clone Wars, those were inspired by the Mando helmets because of Jango Fett. So I think it makes sense that naturally there's going to be similarities and there's probably some reason why this triangle needs to exist on the armor. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's where the inspiration definitely comes from.
Yeah. So what did you think of the fight sequence overall?
It was okay. Like I expected it to be, I was expecting more brutal, more violence, similar to what we got in the Mandalorian episode. Yeah, the tragedy. And it wasn't, and it was fine. I mean, it served its purpose. So again, you can chalk that up to it's just bad editing, or these guys were older and some of the shots were them. There were shots that they weren't them. You could tell when they weren't, and you could tell when they were. But I think it served its purpose. I didn't really have a problem with the scene overall. There were certain shots like this one here that I have, this overhead aerial shots, a very Robert Rodriguez kind of shot. There were some cool shots like this one where we got the upskirt shot of the poor orc there on the right hand side. Just kidding. I didn't mean to take that. And I talked and I was like, oh, gross. I don't want to show this on. And I was like, oh yeah, you know what? I am going to show this on.
I know. I was about to say, you after the fact, you're like, no, I'm pretty happy.
Pretty happy. I caught that moment there. So
right.
You're welcome.
It was interesting that they
Lauren.
were kicking. You don't really view the Gomorians as, people who go and kick around. You just kind of smash and grab and whatnot.
Yeah. They were pretty brutal though. I mean, this whole scene here where he comes in with the machete, which is another, I don't know if that was what he was going for, but that's a Robert Rodriguez movie.
Right.
But yeah, him coming in here and kind of slashing this guy's throat. His head's way too big.
Yeah. I think it's more the bodies feel a bit more slender than we're perhaps used to. But they were a little better proportion than what we saw in the arena in the chapter 1 or chapter 9 of Mandalorian.
Yep. And then here's this scene here where, again, I thought this was just a great look. I mean, again, Tamara Morrison does a really good job with all of his facial expressions
the intensity,
and the intensity of it all. Yeah, I think he does a great job on that. There's the Haka Slam or whatever we're calling that there, the Haka Slash.
Right.
We got Fennec. He literally blew this guy up. I know it was in the trailer.
That was great. Yeah.
Like totally blew him up into pieces, which I thought was cool. So there is a, edgier side still to Boba Fett. He didn't have to do that.
Right.
But he did. I don't know who put it in there. Tuan said parkour, which I don't know if you're echoing the the Office episode. If anybody's an Office fan, there's an episode where they do parkour. But it was a cool. I liked it. I didn't have a problem with it at all. I actually kind of enjoyed it. Fighting the streets, and here we get to the moment where he tells her, he says, "Fennec, alive, right? Keep one alive, or keep them alive." I thought it was funny because she's here. She's got both of them subdued, at least, right, or trapped. And she's like, I'm thinking to myself, she's probably thinking, well, I only need to save one of them. I can at least kill one. So she does, and she kills, knocks that one guy over the edge,
Makes
kills
sense,
him,
right? She can't.
Yeah, and she can come
Hard to
back
apprehend too.
yeah, and bring him back. So
Yeah.
she did exactly what was asked of her.
That's right.
Okay, and then we get the orcs, or I keep saying, I'm sorry, the Gomorian Guards, taking him back, and I think this is where they kind of prove that their loyalty, right? They didn't have to do that. They could have easily done a number of things with him. He wasn't in any kind of condition. Let's talk quickly just about his condition. I know we've already talked about it a little bit, but I think a lot of people were upset that he's kind of like this frail human being that can only go so long before he's got to recharge, and it doesn't line up with what we saw in The Mandalorian. But to be fair, we only saw him in small bits in The Mandalorian. So that's not to say he didn't go back to Slave One or Fire Spray or whatever his ship is called now. It's not to say he didn't go back in there and get back to healed or had to take a breather or whatever else. But do you have any problems with this? I guess the vulnerability of Boba Fett in this series so far? Is he too soft, too weak?
I think it's fair criticism, actually, because we saw them take on several squads of stormtroopers without really much of breaking a sweat. So I think it's fair criticism, and this is a healthier Boba Fett than was at that point. Now, he did take some pretty good rib shots with the batons, so
and a lot of shock damage, I would say.
Yeah, a lot of shock damage. Yes. So he did take some pretty severe hits, but then at the same time he was catching the rods and that type of thing. So yeah, those things probably hurt a lot, and so it seems reasonable that he would have to go back to the bacta, but it did seem like it was a lit too easy for him to get that hurt. It was almost like a severe swing of, well, we have the Mandalorian who can never seem to get injured, and then now we have Boba getting injured a little bit too easily or too quickly. Now, this, unfortunately, the more cynical side of me says maybe this was just a setup so they could get him back to the bacta to do another flashback sequence. Right. I mean, and that's
got to get that in somewhere,
because that's what it was. And we know the next episode, we know that they're going to interrogate the guy that they capture, right? We've seen that in the trailer. So it's not a spoiler. It's just, we've seen Fennec and them hauling the guy into that chamber, right?
Yeah,
so now we make sense how that fits, right? But yeah, it just seemed like it was another way to get him in there to do more backstory. And we've talked about this before. I don't like doing those types of, you put people in the right place at certain times just for convenience factor or to serve that kind of purpose. And this is one of those cases of an example of it where I'm like, okay, this part of that backstory, that flashback or that memory wasn't needed. We had a lot of good stuff. I would have been perfectly okay with what we had and not getting anything else and waiting until another opportunity where it was more organic to go back into that state, because here it went straight back into it.
Yeah.
And again, it had the weird, same distorted look, like that he had just come out of it. And so I'm confused. We don't have that going into it before, but now we have it going into it now. It's just.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, the inconsistency of that.
Yeah, whatever that green distorted look thing was. The
noisy hair.
The noise pixelation thing. But
yep.
Anyway, but yeah, I just don't like the convenience factor of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I get you.
I'm with you with the Gomorian Guards, though. This is a great example that they're loyal, and again, they don't necessarily have ambition. I think that's the thing that maybe Fennec will prove us wrong, but Gomorian Guards really just want a roof over their head and food and a place to be and a job. Basically, they don't seem to have a lot of other wants.
Wife and kids, steady income, right? Or a pension plan, tuition for their kids. Yeah,
right. And maybe that's not very
like every
sensitive
Gomorian
of
Guard.
Me, right? Yeah, maybe that's not very sensitive of me. Gomorians need love too, and Gomorians should have all the other opportunities around the others of the galaxy, of course. But at least these two, this is kind of basic needs. They know what they're good at, and they're going to do it. So
yeah,
they seem like two pretty loyal lads. They look like upstanding kids.
And just as a reminder, we are going to be marching this weekend for the rights of Gomorian Guards here in Austin. So you're welcome to join us.
God, Austin
Saturday
is so
at 8 a.m. Yeah, we'll be marching to the Capitol. So we got your back. Okay, so no, seriously,
bring your loincloths.
Yeah. No, okay, never mind.
Still a
there-
PG-13 show.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to keep it clean here. I don't have a problem with the fact that he was injured that badly. I mean, I'm just going to chalk it up to he got the crap beat out of him, and it was severe enough that he had to go in the back to tank. I do feel like it was a way to kind of transition to the flashbacks.
It was rushed,
but
I think, yeah.
It was kind of probably rushed too. But here's the question that I would pose to somebody. Granted, they're very different people. One's older than the other, but if the Mandalorian, if Din Djarin was in that same situation, do you think he would have been brutally beaten like that, and to the point where he couldn't, even pick himself up? Right, somebody literally had to pick him up. So flip the roles. Do you think that would have happened?
In what way? I mean, if it was, would they have?
Because they're both wearing Mandalorian armor, right?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Because remember, everybody wants the armor anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no doubt that they would have beaten Din to a pulp if they had the chance. Because we've seen countless times where everybody's willing to just kill him and take the armor.
I know. So my question though is,
okay, I'm misunderstanding.
No, you're fine. It's what I'm saying is Boba Fett. Like if Din Djarin was in that same situation and he took the amount of damage he did,
oh no, he would just
get up and walk away. Okay,
yeah, he would. Yeah, he would have blocked it all. Yeah, everything would have hit the armor mysteriously. It would not have found all the soft spots.
Okay,
because going into a stream of blaster fire and not finding the, I mean, he's got a force field around himself.
Yep. All right. Okay, we'll stop at 3 hours tonight. So, but we do get the flashbacks here again, and this is another weird part of it. This is the part where I said the writing was kind of interesting or weird or different. It didn't sit well with me, but we don't end on the present time, right? We end on a flashback. Yeah. And I get why. Maybe if I remember, we'll talk about maybe the why here in a little bit. But it just was odd that this takes us out, right? The episode's taken out through the flashbacks. But nonetheless, we get this scene here. And I forget, somebody mentioned it earlier. I don't understand why this happened either. And granted, I've only seen the episode a couple times, like 4 times. But I don't know why they allowed the kid to take 2 adults out into the middle of the desert. I mean, granted, he had his, Snoopy the dog next to him or whatever, but
right.
Didn't seem like I didn't really get what you got a theory for that, or if it's anybody that's still with us and watching the chat, and if you've got theories as to why this was even, other than again a plot element, right, to kind of give us the reason why he earns the respect. What sense did this make?
Well, I think also you were talking about Tusken culture, right? And we've seen this. If you remember some of what we had seen previously with, what was it? Was it in the comics, or maybe it was in? I can't remember what it was, but with the. Yeah, it was in the comics where the Tuskens have to go out to to prove themselves, and they have to go and do certain rites of passages. And the young ones, everybody has a job, and everybody pulls their own weight.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a culture where the children and the women sit around and just do children and quote unquote women things, and then the men go do that. And it's not like that. Everybody has a place. Everybody is expected to pull their weight. Everybody, maybe not equals, but everybody is supposed to do something, and the kid is in charge of prisoners, and I think it's a good opportunity for him. And then they probably see it as very low risk because again, they're still within earshot, I guess, for them to be able to get to. They're not terribly far away, although I guess they were far enough away for them not to hear the monster.
I think they were pretty far. I mean, they actually went to another homestead, and the Jawas, unless that guy's an idiot and decided, oh, here's a great place, I'm only half a mile away from the Sand People. Right.
Yeah. And there you go. Yeah. Kind of become a man again, rite of passage type of thing.
Right.
And yeah, so it's to be expected. And my guess is this Tusken kid appears to be the chief's son or daughter. It kind of looks like a boy, but it appears to be the chief's kin. Right. So I think something like that might be even more important.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe he was right in order to. He had to check the box in order to ascend to the throne or whatever into that position.
Right, which kind of leads later on whenever the chief extends the water, the olive branch of sorts, if you will. It seems like maybe that was a thanks for saving his kid's life. I mean, it could have been one of those types of expressions of goodwill or of thanks as well, alongside the warrior aspect of that of what he's clearly capable of and what he's able to do. I think the other thing, we'll get to the other part. Yeah.
Okay. So nonetheless, he does take the prisoners out. And there's I was going to flip through some of these shots here, but eventually they come across which is a homestead of some sort.
These guys who like to draw feet and legs. I don't understand it.
Feet and legs. This is not the Lars homestead, okay? I don't know where this has started. I mean, looks nothing like it. There's so many differences. Yes, I mean, it's similar in design and shape, but you know what? This is Tatooine. They manufactured homes are huge here. So everybody's home looks the same, right? They get a really good low price. But
stucco is real in.
It's very in. Yeah, it's a new thing right now, post Empire. But I guess so. This scene, apart from setting the stage for something else, right? Because again, I don't know why they decided to come here. Like there was no payoff on this scene, right? They didn't go get the water that was spewing out there for them, although they needed water a little bit later.
Right.
They didn't steal anything that we know of. They didn't go, ransack this place with this guy down. So it was a little weird that this was in here. But as a plot element, it does give us this symbol. And I think this is obviously something that's going to show up a little bit later. This gang, this is the Niktos that you see there. That you were talking about earlier as being part of which group did you say it was?
I believe it's called the Red Key Raiders or something.
The Red Key Raiders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I think this is an important, and again, I think you talk about bridging to Cobb Vanth and how well did Boba know Cobb Vanth? I mean, this is that connected tissue, right? This is that moment where you could see, okay, around this time is when I think the timing kind of lines up with what Cobb Vanth would have experienced, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that was several years previous, so it's not quite that. Because it was right after the Empire fell is when Cobb Vanth's story said that they were run out, but he was run out in the desert and stuff.
Like hours right afterwards.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And it wasn't clear how long he was gone after that, but
that was the mining collective that came in at that point.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe this is maybe they just have an appearance that looks the same or similar.
Yeah. Either way, I mean, it's a new group. It's a new faction. I don't think this is anyone we've seen. I did the research, and my first instinct was to go to Huttese, right? And look at the Huttese, not the Huttese, what do you call it? The Aurebesh.
Right. Yeah, it's not Aurebesh, yeah.
And it's not. I mean, there's like the tea is probably the closest one, and even then you've got to really like either this guy's terrible at making the tea, he shouldn't be spray painting anything, right? Or thanks to the Star Wars, the Old Republic, SWTOR, we have the now Huttese alphabet, which is the alphabet that the Hutts use on their home planet of Hutta. Hutta is the home planet. And the letter that it looks like to me is the letter K. You can see it right there, right? So there's the letter K, and there's that symbol. Am I crazy?
No, that's pretty similar.
Pretty similar, huh?
Yeah.
So thank you again, SWTOR. 10 years you've been giving me gifts, and this is yet another one of those. So now I don't know so I'm like, okay, so I've got all kinds of theories. No, I don't really have a lot of theories. I haven't had time to think about it really because I've only seen this episode a few times. But if it is a K, it could be the name of the gang itself. It could be the name of a particular person. I was trying to figure out how to work Omega into this so it can align with some of my crazy weird theories. But this K is everywhere. Like you can see it on the buildings, obviously, right? This guy that's vandalizing the buildings here. You can't really see it in the screenshot because I know it's kind of small, but right here on the front of that speeder bike or the swoop here, they've got the symbol there. And I want to say it's on the back of his jacket as well.
Is that what the little, like the really light coloration is on the speeder bike?
I think so. Yeah. On the speeder bike there, it's over here.
You can see, well, no, down to the right. It's like a bigger,
down to the right.
No, on the speeder, we were just pointing.
Yeah.
But go down.
Oh yeah. No, you're right. It's
right there. Yeah. There you go.
That's it. That's
hiding in plain sight.
It is hiding in plain. Well, when I did this, nobody wants to see our faces anyways. Let me blow this up so you can kind of maybe see it there. There you go.
Yeah,
you can see it there.
Kira was with a Q though, but K like key.
Maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it is Kira. Well, no. That would be a way to bring them in.
No, Kira. Wait, what? You're confusing.
Yeah, I know.
People.
Kira. No, Kira was with a Q. The character that was originally, we talked about this in a show too, about the different iterations of Kira over the years. It was a name that Lucas had a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah,
and eventually finally made it up.
Right, they're pining for the original Kira to come back, like Kylo. Yeah,
Kylo. There you go. Bam. My boy Risk. He's got it. He nailed it. I don't know how Kylo fits into this, but he does. Confirmed here.
Right. He's not even born yet, but it's cool.
Yep. Not the T-Birds either. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, eventually this is gonna pay out, right? The payoff will come at some point. So
Yeah, again, I mean, and again, it kind of goes back to the different factions. You know, we'll have to see if they're still around several years later.
yeah.
But different factions that Boba's going to have to compete with. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they resurfaced.
Okay, we get back to the story here. And I do like these things,
Yeah,
these mastiffs.
they're
They're so cute.
hounds.
Yeah. But yeah, so eventually we
I like
get
how the kid's just chilling on the ground.
I know, he's just
later on,
kicking back.
Yeah,
It's a boy and his dog.
That's right.
Charlie Brown and Snoopy. Hey, we'll call him Charlie Brown, or CB for short.
Old Yeller.
Take him back out and shoot him.
Hey.
But yeah, he's having him dig for these water things or whatever.
Yeah, this part didn't. Yeah, I don't understand. They're barely digging and they just come up with stuff. If that was the case, this would be a mining colony looking for water.
Yeah. I had a problem with the Rhodians' fingers. I've always had problems with their fingers, like,
because they don't
not
move.
bending. Yeah, they don't articulate in any way. They're just kind of like
Really
flopping
long
around.
suction cups, yeah.
And he's there digging away and finding all these things. And I mean, that was part of the comedic moments, right? Where he seems to keep finding these things, and Boba Fett is having a problem finding one of them, and eventually does find one and tries to take a drink of water, which I thought too was interesting because or appropriate. Like, they were walking through the desert, they've not had any water. They've got to be thirsty. I was thinking that, and so I'm glad to see that he actually was like, no, I'm drinking this one because I'm not gonna sit here and just die, right, from heat stroke. This kid comes up and tries to take a cheap shot at him. He catches the stick there with his hand, which we've all done before.
Right, but where are these coming from? What are they, and where are these water bowls coming from?
It doesn't matter. Come on. No, I
have
don't
a
know.
theory.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So
do you think that monster is laying them?
Or it's excrement?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just the monster's excrement, and it's known that it contains water. There you go. That's a pleasant thought.
It's about the only thing that like makes a lot of sense. Like, why something with water would be just arbitrarily in the sand.
That's the ugliest dog. That's Steph.
She doesn't.
You watch your mouth, young lady.
Yeah, she's in trouble.
Those are cute dogs.
They are. That's a cute picture.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there's the
Kraken, the Tatooine Kraken.
Tatooine, yeah.
So eventually, I was not expecting this. I don't know. I've never seen this monster before on Tatooine. Didn't know it existed. I mean, there's all kinds of monsters on Tatooine from Legends and a lot of the video games, but I don't remember ever seeing this particular one.
There are so many people who are finding all the references for what this reminds them of, though. Like, there's
I've
people
heard Goro.
Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat, yeah.
There was another one from what movie was it? It was a wave flashback type of thing. I forget what it was, but
Clash of the Titans?
I can't remember.
That's the Kraken. The Kraken. When I said the Tatooine Kraken, I'm talking about the 1980 Harry whatever movie of Clash of the Titans.
Right, yeah.
Animation, stop animation.
Yeah, well, there was another one that was like a green alien with like 4 arms. It was a little more slender, though. I forgot what it was from. But yeah, there's a lot of references to what this could have been. I mean, this is like a hut, though, because he's got like the 12-pack going.
Yeah.
Like that hut from the comics. Jacked.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, this thing is unleashed, I guess, or uncovered. They dig him out and the battle ensues here. Dog gets punched. The Rhodian gets smashed. The kid gets punched, which I thought was funny. I don't know why. It sounds horrible, but I thought it was funny, especially since he got lifted right off his feet here.
Yeah.
When he got punched there.
Well,
I'm glad that Rhodian died, though. I mean, he gets crushed. Completely levels him with a haymaker.
Into the sand, no less.
Right? Buried into the sand.
Right.
I thought this was all a really good action sequence, and then we get Tamara Morrison doing his best Leia Organa impression here with Jabba the Hutt and choking out the monster here. This is all good stuff, though. I mean, I kind of enjoyed it, and it was more brutal, right? We got to see a brutal side of Boba Fett that we probably hadn't seen just yet, but. And I called this Boba Unchained, but he's still chained, but it was just kind of like this moment of freedom for him. You know what I mean? Like the way he kind of stood there once he was done.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I'm glad you pointed out because it's very much of kind of Boba reclaiming his strength and his power, if you will, and finally feeling more like himself and being able to assert that side of him and not feel like this whole like subjugation or whatever it is that he's doing where he's feeling lost, right? Because he's almost like he just feels out of place ever since the episode started. No matter what scenario he's in, he's just kind of out of place.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden now it's like all of a sudden he's back.
Right.
You know, every time I hear that with Boba's back, I think of Robot Chicken.
You watched a lot of Robot Chicken.
I watched a lot of that one episode. Yeah.
That one episode.
Yeah.
Okay, we so then we cut over. So the boys stand there, and we're all kind of left. What's that?
They cut over.
They cut over. Yeah.
Cut the head off.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get ahead of myself there.
Oh, that was terrible.
No, that joke was head and shoulders above the other two. Okay, so we get to this little boy running in with the head on his shoulder, like some kind of trophy, which I thought was hilarious. And I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell like if the kid was. I don't think the kid took credit for this. Some people were saying that he did.
Oh yeah,
but I don't think he did, because there's one moment where he's talking about, you can see him put like imitating what Boba Fett did and put that around his. I mean, if he does, I don't think anybody in the town's going to believe him, right? Because if he does, then it craps all over the fact that Boba now has earned the respect. You know what I mean?
Right.
That doesn't jive. So I think he was telling the truth. I mean, it's hard to say because there was no, it wasn't translated or whatever. But
yeah,
I do like the fact that this kid did it. I mean, they're probably giving him credit for at least doing it, being part of it, and coming back alive. I mean, he attacked it. He stabbed it in the foot, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they're congratulating him like he's a hero.
Yeah.
So that's that's why it's confusing, though.
We'll see. This is like, the only thing.
They're like posing with it, like they're taking pictures.
Yeah, exactly. Here, get one on this side. The only thing missing in this scene was, you ever seen the movie Rudy, where they hold Rudy over the shoulders and they're cheering for him? I thought they were going to put this kid over the shoulders and
this guy in the back who's got the goblet. I swear it was like someone trying to take a picture. You know, they've got their cell phone up there.
He's got a selfie. He's trying to get a selfie here too as well. So this is what who was it? Gary says he scrolled by that chief with the medallion, the Death Star medallion.
Yeah.
That he talked about earlier.
Yeah, it does kind of look like the one from A New Hope.
Yeah, he just took it and repurposed it. Threw some bones on there, some nails, some teeth. Boom.
It does remind me a bit of Enfys Nest in the, what are they called? The Cloud Riders?
Cloud Riders, yeah. See, now, why do we remember that now?
Yes, I got it.
Why?
We've earned our Star Wars card back for a little while. But yeah, I like the design though. Yeah, it's very much, it reminds me a lot more of Enfys Nest than maybe of the rest of the Tuscans that we have. Actually, the design of these Tuscans a lot more darker color and like richer color than just the sand that we've seen.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and this is like, if again, not to go back to Star Wars: The Old Republic, but in SWTOR there are different clans of Tusken Raiders, and they have various looks. Right, it's not all just the
makes sense
sand stuff. Right, so they're more tribal. You get a lot more background, and I'm sure some of that inspiration came from that as well. So let's see, where are we at here? Yeah, and it kind of ends here on this final moment where, this leader walks up and then just doesn't even make eye contact with him, but he hands over the water, which I think was all really Boba Fett wanted, was a drink of water here.
It's all he wanted the entire time. But
yeah, that was it.
See, some of these frames, I'm glad you did this, and you have to tell me, maybe I don't know if this may just how you took the screenshots. Doesn't it seem like some of these scenes are really washed out? Like just really washed out. Like some have really rich colors and others just really feel washed out. And I don't know that that's intentional, because if it was supposed to be intentional, like in the Matrix, right? When you're in the Matrix, everything has this green shade to it.
Mm-hmm.
But this, it's very inconsistent with how they're showing it to us. It's just very distracting. And again, you can see here the colors are very muted, especially Boba is very pale. And you can see it go an image before. Yeah, this one right here too.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all of that. And then you go to the one before that, and that's much richer, right? All these colors, the blacks are richer. And then you get here, and again, it's more, and I think it's that screen. And this is where you can see that screen in the back is just not quite selling it as much as I think it. Yeah, but yeah. And there's risk, kind of forgot to color grade. It kind of seems like they forgot to color correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not forgot, but anyway, it surprised me the inconsistency of the colors here.
Was it because they were was it only in the flashback scenes maybe?
It's the only time I really noticed it was really in this sequence right here, where it was just obvious. It was like flipping back and forth of what how rich the colors,
Yeah, I'm
the
just
color
wondering if
palette
it was
was.
like a stylized thing to kind of
Right. And
make
again,
you
I'm sorry to interrupt. Here
no
you
good.
can see where the screen is. Like if you look behind Boba, like around
Oh
his
yeah,
ear
this line
level,
right here.
yeah, you
Yep.
could see where the screen cuts off and where the stage is actually ending.
Yep.
And again, that's just an unfortunate side effect, I think, of it, but at the same time disappointing that you could really notice the halo in this episode quite a bit,
Mm.
which was again, we're being pretty nitpicky because I don't think if you don't know it's there,
Well,
you probably didn't. Well, I think if you don't know it's there, you probably don't even notice it. Or you
so
may be like,
I'll give you one better as far as fairness goes.
okay.
I don't. This never really was a problem in Mandalorian, and they were using the same tech there, right? And we had plenty of scenes in the desert. Why did this one stand out as much as it did? I don't know. Good
Yeah.
question.
And maybe it's just we were here so much this time.
Yeah, right. Long periods of time
Yeah.
cruising through the desert. Okay. And that's how the episode ends, which I thought was kind of odd that it ended on the flashback, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. We'll get on with our lives here.
Will we?
I don't know. We'll
We have a
see.
whole week. We have a whole week to brood over this.
Yeah. Okay, so let's wrap this up. I kind of want to get your thoughts overall on just a couple questions. Overall, I would say first off, I think it was a solid episode. I thought it was good. It didn't suck, which is I'm happy about. Right?
It's always a relief, right?
It's always a relief, right? And especially with the amount of hype, and you're
Yeah.
coming off the heels of Mandalorian season 1, season 2. It's pretty big shoes to fill. You've got a character as big as Boba Fett finally making his presence on screen for the first time in a very long time in his own show,
Yeah.
at
Central
least,
character, right?
as the central character. Right? So there was a lot of expectations going into this, and they're never going to meet everyone's expectations. It's just
Sure.
not even fair.
Right.
But at the same time, I did feel like there were some moments in here where I probably there were some. It could have been better, but it wasn't bad. I mean, I didn't hate it, and I actually enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the second episode. This could have sucked, and I would still watch the entire series. Let's just be
Right.
honest, right?
Right. Well,
But
I mean, we have a job to do. So.
Yeah, right. We got to pay the bills. But I enjoyed the show. I mean, I would give it a solid, I don't know, 7 if I had to grade it on a 10, maybe an 8. I don't know. I need to watch it a few more times. But what about you? What did you think? I guess overall.
I think 7's fair. Yeah. I mean, I think when I rewatched it, I did enjoy it a little bit more, probably because I wasn't working so hard to watch everything, and also some of the things that some things you notice more of and some things you let go of the more you
Mhm.
watch it and get familiar with it. So
Yeah.
it was a little bit better. And yeah, it looks like Dante may have had the same experience because we did a live stream of this at 2 a.m. or not a live stream, but a
Discord watch party.
yeah, we did like a watch party. There you go. Sorry, the words escaped me. We did a watch party and Antoine and Dante and stuff there were, and it was fun getting initial reactions from people afterwards. And it was very subdued, right? And Dante, I think Dante's always always got a great way of kind of articulating himself, and it was it was definitely noticeable the hesitation of like I like it, but there's just something right, and it just didn't quite. But I had the same reaction. It was a bit lackluster, but when I rewatched it a couple more times, I found myself enjoying it a little bit more, which
Mhm.
I was a little bit surprised about because usually if you have kind of a meh reaction, usually it doesn't. But I actually enjoyed it a little bit more. I'm with you. There were a couple weird choices that I don't quite understand. I think they could have made for a stronger episode if they would have made a couple of choices, but these guys know what they're doing. These guys and girls know what they're doing. So we'll trust them there. But I definitely want more. I think that's the thing. It didn't leave me, thinking this was a crap hole that was just a dumpster fire was just waiting to sink and explode and ruin the fandom or something like that.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
just, yeah, it's just more of a here's episode 1. We got some of the backstory we absolutely wanted. I feel like we had to have. It was done pretty well, and now we can start moving forward. And again, we've seen a lot of what we saw in the teaser and trailer. We know we've got a little bit more coming in episode 2 or chapter 2, which again is pretty common. What you get in the teasers and the trailers is usually the first couple of episodes. But we know we've got a journey here, so we've got some more things going. So I think it was good to establish these types of things, get some of this out of the way, and now let's see where the story takes us. And I'm really curious though, and what I really am excited about are more of the flashback sequences. I hope they find a little bit better way of doing them though.
Yeah. I was
Uh,
going to ask you if you felt like we were going to get more flashbacks.
I think so. I think there's a lot more story in there to tell, and especially with the Tuscans. And I think you and I agree on this. We want to know what else happened with the Tuscans. Like it seems like he seemed like he did become kind of one of them, right? When we see him in Mandalorian, he's got the garb, he has the rifle and the gaffy stick, and he really does seem like he's become one of the clan. So I'd like to see that progression continue and however many years that goes on for. And also with Cobb Vanth, and how does he learn about where his armor is at? What has he been doing in the meantime? What does it look like to be Boba Fett without your armor? And what does it look like to be Boba Fett without a mission, without a bounty? So I think there's questions in there that are really interesting pieces as to his character that I think would be really interesting to explore. And I'm hoping that, and I fully expect Filoni and Favreau and anyone else working on the project, those are things that we're going to get and that they want to explore as well, because those are the things that are interesting, and you can do those in parallel. And I was watching some things on social media, and I wanted to get your take on this. The whole parallel storytelling. We've had some examples where this. I mean, we see this in the Thrawn books a lot. You know, it's distracting sometimes, but sometimes it really works because there's some parallel things going on, and it's a bit on the nose sometimes, but it's interesting to see that correlation of what they've learned and how they apply it.
Yeah.
Is that a mechanism of storytelling that A, we're going to get a lot of in this series, or is it temporary? And then B, is that something that you enjoy seeing, or you think it's going to be a detriment to this type of series?
I think we're going to get more of that. I have a theory as to I always have a theory. I have a theory as to
Right.
why we are getting the flashbacks in the way we are. So maybe I can answer it that way.
Okay.
So I guess whether or not we see more flashbacks, yes, I absolutely think we're going to see more flashbacks. Hopefully, like you said, they do things a little bit differently, and it doesn't feel like it's too
Shorter.
heavy handed on one or the other. Right? There's more of a
Yeah.
balance there. When we first talked about Boba Fett showing up at the end of episode 1, season 2, we had a lot of questions, as many people did. And I think one of the questions that really surfaced that kind of stuck with me for a very long time was, if he got out of the Sarlacc Pit, why did it take 5 years, right, for him to finally show up on Tatooine or show up in Tatooine, but specifically go after Cobb Vanth and Mando to get his armor back, right? What was he doing that entire time? He seems healthy enough here, right, that he would be able to just kind of walk away. I mean, he had that whole fight with that, monster for our monster Goro thing, and he was fine. So there's some inconsistencies there, but that's another story. The thing that we talked about, I guess one of the theories that we pitched at that time was that he was getting nursed back to health with the Tusken Raiders, and it does look like maybe some of that may happen, maybe not. It doesn't matter. I think what they're trying to do here is, if you think about Boba Fett before this series started, going into Return of the Jedi, he's had a pretty rough life. We've talked about that. Some would argue he was a very, a lot of people have argued that this isn't the same character, right? He's not as ruthless. He's not the killer that we saw and expected or dreamt about or read about in legends, right? Something happened to him. Something changed him. And my gut tells me now, and I'm probably reaffirmed in that theory, that in that time that he was spending with the Tusken Raiders, he's doesn't have the armor, right? He's got to learn how to be a warrior without the armor. He puts on the armor. He's awesome. He's a badass, right? He can do all kinds of cool stuff. Without it, he's never had to learn to live like this. Right. And my gut tells me they're going to show us the progression. They're going to show us and explain why he is not the ruthless killer that we see now, the softer side of him, right? I think some of that is going to come from his time being spent with the Tusken Raiders, earning their respect, filing in with their ranks, going on hunts, and learning, all that stuff. And that's going to teach him that, look, you were a savage just like the Tusken Raiders are seen as savages, but there's really more depth to them, right? You don't have to be that way. So I think that's going to get exposed. And if they do that over the course, I think they build the case as to why we're seeing a different take on Boba Fett and why he is a little bit different, because he's gone through some crap, right? I mean, he's lived a very kind of richful, experienced life in these last 5 years, a very humbling life in the last 5 years. And maybe it's only when he finally feels like, okay, I am a totally different person and I can be this different person without the armor, that he decides that, okay, now I can be even something more because I can get my armor and I've learned how to be Boba Fett. Like, who is Boba Fett, right? I think that's kind of what they're trying to answer here.
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. Yeah, I think that's it's a basically rebuilding of himself.
Yeah.
And he's been torn down, so now it's an opportunity for him to really kind of reclaim himself, but also reclaim his heritage in a way. And that's like you said, that's beyond the armor. And then you go to the arm, and then you get it, because I'm with you. I think he's been so reliant on it, and rightfully so. And that's not to say that he's not a good fighter or anything like that. But when you've had all these tools at your disposal, you have a lot of tools at your disposal. You're not just you don't have just your hands and your thinks and your things, your wits, and you're just a God-given ability, if you will.
Mhm.
You just don't have any of that. So you know, to have to reacclimate to a simpler life, and who better to teach you the harshness of life than the Tuscans in the middle of a
Yeah.
desert? Yeah.
Right.
So it's a great fit. So I'm really excited, and I think I'm with you. I think we're going to get more of it. I hope they do it a little bit differently, but I think we're gonna get more of it. I think it's going to be really, really good. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's almost like he's going back to his roots, his warrior roots. He's been Boba the
Exactly.
bounty hunter, Boba the mercenary, Boba the crybaby, whatever.
Right.
Uh,
Now it's time to be a
but
Mandalorian.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Now it's time to be a Mandalorian, trying to be a warrior at heart, and I think he's going to connect with that on a different level, having spent time with the
right.
Tusken Raiders and been a part of their.
But he doesn't really. Well, I got to track back on that one because he doesn't equate to being a Mandalorian, right?
Mhm.
That's what he says to Bo Katan, right?
Yeah,
But then again,
yeah,
he's got the even on his pauldron,
he wears it.
he still has the beast skull.
Yeah,
I always forget what the name of the beast is, but yeah,
the monosaur, mythosaur.
mythosaur. There you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll
But
take Jim J.
interesting.
Bullet for the block.
Yeah, but again, I hope that we get some of that backstory too about why does he not affiliate with Mandalorians? Is it that there's just a bunch of BS that goes along with being Mandalorian, or is just no, he's his own person and he doesn't want to. He
Yeah, I
just
think it's
doesn't
probably
want
part
to.
of that, and his dad his dad wasn't
Yeah,
was probably shunned upon as well
and
because he was.
that's another aspect I think would be interesting to get would be an idea of a little bit of Django's backstory too
Yeah.
about what it meant to Django, like the Mandalorian aspect of life, if it was important at all, or if something that he even dabbled in, or was he an outcast? Because we know he was a foundling. We know Django was
Right.
a foundling,
Yeah. So yeah,
and
he could have
so
been outcast from other groups or other sects in there, depending on
right.
what was
Yeah,
going
we
on
know
in
there's
Mando.
divisions, and I mean, there's a long history of infighting and potential civil war with Mandalorian. So
Yep.
it's not out of the realm of possibility. But it'd be interesting to get a little more bit of Django's history too, as a result. And again, part of Boba's journey of kind of reclaiming the Fett name, maybe not reclaiming his ability as Mandalorian, but reclaiming the name Fett,
Yeah.
I think is probably more appropriate.
Yep. Well, I think with that, we're going to end the show. I do have one quick note. We are going to record a Patreon only episode this week. I think it's this week. And I haven't told Jonesy what the title is, but I'm going to tell you now, Jonesy.
Oh,
We're going to do an episode on respect and fear. And what I want to do is dig into that a little bit more. We talked about it in this episode, but I want to kind of dig into some examples where we've had characters in Star Wars that ruled with respect or we saw as respectful leaders in some way and why, and then talk about those that ruled with fear. And we have plenty of examples there.
right.
But then just kind of talk about, which one, what are the goods and bads, and where do we see Boba Fett aligning with some of this stuff, even that, he wants more respect, but is he going to cater and give in to fear? Like Fennec Shan is kind of whispering in his ear kind of thing. So
Right.
that'll be the Patreon episode. And again, we'll record that probably later this week here as
And
well. So
maybe
you've got that to look forward to.
and if we end up doing it live, we'll let everyone know.
Yeah.
It's been kind of fun to do the Patreon show live.
Yeah, it was actually. It's a different kind of show. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, it's
Yeah,
more lax.
let us know what you guys think too. If you like the more, we know the live stream is a little bit different because we do a little more interacting with the people who are in the chat because we find that enjoyable and it sounds like other folks do too. So let us know if you're on the Patreon side of that. We know sometimes it gets a little heavy on the visual side rather than the audio side when we're doing the video. But let
Because we
us know
do
your
show and tell.
well, yeah, the whole show and tell thing. But yeah, an hour doesn't describe anything ever.
It's true. I'm horrible at
You're
that.
terrible.
I
We
really
like
am bad.
backtrack here. I mean, he's telling you in smoke signals. But anyway, let us know if you like that and if that's something you want to continue to get live. We appreciate the feedback there, of course. Patreon.com/the Cantina Cast, or you can always find us on all the social medias at either the Cantina Cast or Cantina Cast. And you can find us on Discord at earglemedia.com/Discord, and you can chat with us there. Again, we have a dedicated spoiler thread for Boba Fett. And again, if we're going to have watch parties, we usually do them through Discord. So if you want to be in the know on all of that, join us over there at earglemedia.com/Discord again, and you will find all of us there. We're always active.
Yeah. Good job. You know, it's not even scripted.
Your brother, man, he cracks me up. I will only Patreon if my money goes to Jonesy. Only.
Okay, thanks. We'll figure out something.
Well, unfortunately, it all goes to Mike, so we all lose.
Right, we all lose. No one wins in this game. Okay, thank you to everybody that came. I mean, there's 8 million people in the chat tonight.
Fantastic.
We're going to get through all of them, but
we had about 24 people at one point, so it was awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We love you all.
And if you're new to the show, as I say, if you're new to the show, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you'll be back. We do this every week. We've got the Patreon episode coming up. We've got episode 2 or chapter 2 of the Book of Boba Fett. We'll do that next week. We've got the Fallen Star coming up. We want to do a recap of the High Republic or get everybody caught up on where we are. The state of the High Republic is what we're calling that show. So that's getting worked out right now. What else? We got a Rule of 2 show that I've already put the notes together on. I've got the high level outline of that. So we'll be doing that at some point. So lots of really cool, fun, exciting stuff to talk about with Star Wars. And hopefully you'll join us for that.
Next 6 months are covered. We don't need TV shows.
We don't need
got
TV shows.
Everything else.
All right. You got anything before we get out of here?
No, thanks everyone. We appreciate it.
Okay. I've got new credits for you guys. Never before seen that I'm going to roll right now. And it has all the new people updated as well. So again, thank you to our new folks that have joined us on Patreon. We'll see you guys next week.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.